The study of the human skeleton is a journey into one of the quietest yet most remarkable aspects of the body. When we think of ourselves, we often imagine the surface, the skin, the face, the expressions that shift and flow with each passing moment. Yet beneath that outer world lies a framework, silent and unseen, carrying the entire structure with ease and strength. The skeleton is more than a set of bones that merely hold us upright. It is a living architecture, carefully arranged and delicately balanced, supporting movement, protecting delicate organs, and shaping the human form in ways that we often take for granted. As you listen and drift into calmness, imagine this inner framework not as something hard and cold, but as something alive, warm, and deeply connected to who you are. The skeleton is not separate from the living self. It breathes quietly with every inhale and exhale as the ribcage expands. It bends with every motion, whether subtle or strong. It adapts through growth, renewal, and change, keeping pace with the rhythm of life. The word skeleton might conjure images of a lifeless form, something pale and motionless. But in truth, the human skeleton is vibrant. Each bone is a living organ, filled with marrow that creates blood cells, nourished by blood vessels, and woven with nerves that keep it sensitive and responsive. Instead of a rigid frame locked in place, it is more like a flexible scaffold, always in motion, always adjusting, always listening to the needs of the body. Think of how naturally you stand, how effortlessly you sit, or how smoothly you walk. All of these are possible because the skeleton provides a foundation, one that balances sturdiness with grace. Without it, the muscles would have no anchor, and the body would collapse into softness. With it, every gesture gains form, every step has purpose, every breath is guarded and safe. The skeleton also tells the story of life across time, from the tiny beginnings of bone forming in a child's body to the strength of the adult frame, and then the gradual changes of age. The skeleton is a lifelong companion. In its early stages, much of it is soft cartilage, flexible and yielding. Over the years, this soft foundation transforms into strong bone, shaped through a process called ossification. And even in adulthood, when the skeleton feels finished, it is still alive with change. Bone tissue is constantly broken down and rebuilt, a cycle of renewal that ensures strength and resilience. In this way, the skeleton is never truly still. It is quietly dynamic, always balancing between giving support and adapting to the needs of the moment. Now, imagine standing in a quiet space, feeling the stillness of your own body. Beneath the calm surface of skin and muscle, there is an intricate system of beams and arches, not unlike the framework of a cathedral. The spine rises like a central column, tall and flexible. The ribcage curves outward like protective walls, both strong and graceful. The skull forms a vaulted dome, encasing the mind in safety. The arms and legs extend outward like supportive towers, allowing movement, reaching, and balance. Together, these parts create harmony, a structure that is both sturdy and beautiful, both practical and elegant. The skeleton also carries meaning that extends beyond the individual. Across history and culture, bones have been symbols of endurance, memory, and continuity. Archaeologists uncover skeletons that tell stories thousands of years old. From their shape and condition, we learn how people lived, what they ate, what struggles they faced, and how they carried themselves in life. In this way, the skeleton is not only personal, but also universal. It connects us to the great story of humanity, a silent reminder that beneath our differences in appearance, we share a common architecture. When we look at the skeleton as a whole, we find order within complexity. It is composed of 206 bones in the adult body, though at birth, there are over 270 bones that gradually fuse as we grow. This process of fusion reflects the body's wisdom, simplifying where strength is needed and leaving separate pieces where flexibility is required. Each bone has its own shape, its own function, and its own quiet place within the greater whole. Some, like the femur and the thigh, are long and strong, carrying the weight of the body. Others, like the small bones in the ear, are tiny yet delicate, transmitting the vibrations of sound. Each bone plays a role, none too large, none too small, together creating the harmony that allows life to flow with ease. To think of the skeleton is to think of balance. The upright posture that defines humanity depends on the coordination of the spine, pelvis, and legs. The fine movements of the hand depend on the delicate arrangement of small bones in the wrist and fingers. Breathing depends on the cage of ribs, expanding and contracting with every breath as soft air fills the lungs. Even the act of resting, lying quietly in stillness, depends on the bones beneath you, distributing weight, supporting shape, and keeping form. It is worth remembering that bones themselves are not just solid mineral. They are composed of a living matrix, a blend of strength and softness. The outer layers are compact and dense, built for resistance and durability. Within lies spongy bone, lighter and more open, designed to absorb impact and carry marrow. Inside the marrow, blood cells are born, tiny forms of life that circulate through the body, carrying oxygen, defending against illness, and providing nourishment to every tissue. In this way, the skeleton is both structure and source, both protector and provider. At night, as you prepare for rest, the skeleton too settles into stillness. It holds the body softly as you lie down, cradling your organs, supporting your limbs, and allowing the muscles to relax. You may not notice its presence, but it is always there, working quietly without demand or complaint. It asks for little, yet gives everything: stability, safety, and form. To imagine the skeleton at rest is to imagine peace itself solid, calm, and enduring. As we begin this gentle exploration, let us carry with us the thought that the skeleton is not something distant or abstract, but something intimate, something that belongs to you in every moment. It is your constant companion, shaping every gesture, every breath, and every step, yet asking for no recognition. It is an architecture of silence, a framework of strength, and a foundation of life. To learn about it is not to disturb its stillness, but to honor its presence. In the chapters ahead, we will move slowly through its many parts, from the skull that shields the mind to the feet that meet the earth. We will see how each piece fits into the larger whole, and how the whole creates harmony within the body. But for now, it is enough to rest in the knowledge that this framework exists within you, strong, yet gentle, silent, yet vital. The skeleton is the quiet core of the self, carrying you with grace through every moment of life, and keeping watch as you drift into the calm of sleep. To the living framework. The skeleton is often thought of as a simple collection of bones, a dry structure hidden beneath the skin. But in truth, it is far more than that. It is a living framework, one that is always active, always changing, always working in quiet partnership with the rest of the body. Each bone that we carry within us is an organ in its own right, a carefully crafted structure that breathes with life. Within its walls there are cells, vessels, and marrow, each carrying out essential tasks that keep us healthy, balanced, and whole. To imagine the skeleton as lifeless is to miss the truth of its nature. It is alive with activity, and yet all of this activity occurs in silence, beneath the surface, without us ever needing to notice. When you think of a bone, you might picture it as solid and unyielding, but the reality is more intricate. The outer layer of bone, known as compact bone, is dense and strong, designed to endure pressure and resist breakage. It provides the firmness that allows us to stand tall, to lift, and to move with confidence. Beneath this outer layer lies spongy bone, lighter and filled with spaces, resembling a delicate lattice of tiny beams. This inner structure may seem fragile at first glance, but it is this very design that gives bone its unique balance of strength and flexibility. By being porous, rather than completely solid, bone can absorb shock, bend slightly under stress, and recover its shape without shattering. Inside the deepest parts of bone is marrow, a soft tissue with a role that is nothing less than vital. It is here that new blood cells are born. Red marrow produces red blood cells, the carriers of oxygen that sustain every living tissue, as well as white blood cells, which serve as the body's defenders against illness. It also produces platelets, the small fragments that allow blood to clot and wounds to heal. In the quiet chambers of the marrow, life is constantly renewed, billions of cells forming each day, released into the bloodstream to sustain the body. In this way, the skeleton is not only a framework of support, but also a cradle of renewal, giving rise to life within its hidden spaces. Even more remarkable is the fact that bones themselves are alive with cells. Osteoblasts, the builders of bone, constantly work to form new tissue, secreting minerals and proteins that strengthen the structure. Osteoclasts, their counterparts, carefully break down old bone, clearing away what is no longer needed. Together, these two types of cells maintain a delicate balance, ensuring that the skeleton remains strong and adaptable throughout life. If the skeleton were simply fixed and unchanging, it would eventually become brittle, unable to adjust to the demands placed upon it. But because it is living, it reshapes itself in response to need. A bone will thicken where it experiences stress, reinforcing itself against future strain. It will heal after injury, knitting itself back together in a process that reflects both strength and patience. Blood vessels weave through bones, carrying nutrients and oxygen to sustain their cells. Nerves also extend into the skeletal system, allowing bones to respond to the needs of the body. Though bones may seem mute and unfeeling, they are connected to the nervous system and play a role in sensing pressure and balance. The skeleton is not an isolated structure, but one that is integrated deeply into the web of the body's systems. It speaks quietly to muscles, ligaments, blood vessels, and nerves, working together to create movement and stability. This living quality of the skeleton is most apparent in its capacity for growth and change. In infancy and childhood, the framework is still forming, with many bones made largely of cartilage. Cartilage is softer and more flexible than bone, allowing for growth and expansion. As time passes, this cartilage is gradually replaced by bone tissue through a process called ossification. Growth plates at the ends of long bones remain active through adolescence, lengthening limbs and shaping stature. By adulthood, these plates close, and the skeleton reaches its full size, though it never stops changing. Throughout life, the bones continue their cycle of renewal, breaking down and rebuilding in a rhythm that mirrors the natural flow of time. The skeleton is also deeply tied to the balance of minerals within the body. Calcium, one of the most important elements for human life, is stored within bones. When the level of calcium in the blood drops too low, bones quietly release some of their reserves, keeping the body supplied. When levels are high, bones absorb and store calcium, ensuring that nothing is wasted. In this way, the skeleton serves as both structure and reservoir, maintaining a balance that supports the heart, the muscles, and the nervous system. Without this constant regulation, essential processes like heartbeat and nerve transmission would falter. Bones are thus guardians of balance, quietly managing resources that the body depends on each moment. To see the skeleton as living is to see it not only as structure but also as participant in life. It works alongside muscles to produce movement, alongside the lungs to protect breathing, alongside the brain to guard thought, and alongside the blood to sustain renewal. It is woven into every part of human existence, even if we are rarely aware of its presence. Every smile depends on the bones of the face. Every step depends on the bones of the feet. Every breath depends on the ribs and sternum, opening and closing like a soft cage. Every moment of stillness is supported by this quiet, enduring framework. When you lie down at night, you may feel the softness of a mattress or the warmth of a blanket, but beneath that comfort lies the strength of the skeleton, holding form, shaping posture, and keeping the body aligned. Even in rest, the bones continue their work, maintaining the integrity of the body, protecting the organs, and providing the balance needed for calm breathing. The skeleton does not demand recognition. It does not call attention to itself. It simply exists, steady and dependable. Thinking of the skeleton in this way can be calming, for it reveals how much of life is supported without effort. You do not need to command your bones to hold you upright or to heal when injured. They know what to do, guided by an ancient intelligence built into their very structure. The living framework of bone embodies patience, endurance, and resilience. It is always there. Through growth, change, and age, a steadfast companion. Through every stage of life, the next time you consider your body, imagine not just the surface but the hidden framework beneath. Picture the bones as beams of strength, the marrow as a cradle of life, the outer layers as protective walls, and the inner lattice as a delicate web of balance. Picture the constant renewal, the quiet exchange of minerals, the ongoing birth of blood cells. All of it happens without sound, without demand, yet all of it sustains life in its fullness. The skeleton is not something apart from you. It is you. It is the foundation upon which your story is carried, the shape in which your movements are drawn, and the silent rhythm that continues without end. To call it a living framework is to recognize that it is not static, but ever-flowing, a balance of strength and change, form and renewal. As you rest, this framework continues its watch, supporting the quiet of your body and the calm of your breath, reminding you gently that even in stillness, life flows on within. 3. Bone, growth, and development. The story of the human skeleton is not only about the bones as they exist now, but also about how they came to be. Each bone in the body has its own history, beginning long before birth and continuing to change throughout life. The process of bone growth and development is a quiet journey, one that takes place slowly, patiently, and with remarkable precision. To understand it is to see the skeleton not as something fixed, but as something dynamic, always in motion, always shaping and reshaping itself in harmony with time. In the earliest stages of life, long before a baby is born, the first outlines of the skeleton begin to take form. At this point, it is not bone as we know it, but rather cartilage, a softer and more flexible tissue that provides a foundation for what is to come. Cartilage is firm enough to give shape yet pliable enough to allow growth and change. This early framework sets the stage, marking the places where bones will eventually develop. In the womb, the skeleton is almost entirely made of this material, allowing the developing body to grow rapidly without being hindered by rigid structures. As time passes, the process of ossification begins. Ossification is the transformation of cartilage into bone, carried out through the work of specialized cells. Tiny centers of ossification appear in different parts of the skeleton, places where mineral deposits begin to accumulate, strengthening the tissue and giving it the hardness we associate with bone. These centers gradually expand, replacing cartilage with living bone tissue. In some bones, such as those of the skull, ossification begins in multiple places, with the separate sections eventually joining together to form a single whole. In others, such as long bones of the arms and legs, growth occurs in stages, lengthening the bone while maintaining areas of cartilage at the ends, known as growth plates. Growth plates are remarkable regions, thin bands of cartilage that remain active well into adolescence. Within them, new cells divide and expand, pushing the bone to greater lengths. As these cells mature, they ossify, becoming part of the hardened bone. This process continues steadily, allowing the arms and legs to grow longer, the spine to lengthen, and the body to take on its adult proportions. During this time, the skeleton is in a state of constant change, its shapes and sizes shifting to accommodate growth. Eventually, when a person reaches the end of adolescence, the growth plates close, fusing with the bone and marking the end of height increase. At this point, the skeleton has reached its adult form, though its story of renewal is far from over. Even after growth has ceased, the skeleton remains a living structure. Bone tissue is continuously broken down and rebuilt in a process known as remodeling. Remodeling allows bones to adapt to the demands placed upon them. When a particular area is subject to stress, such as the legs carrying the weight of walking or running, the bone responds by strengthening itself, adding density where it is needed. When an area is less used, the bone may gradually lose density, lightening the load where it is unnecessary. This adaptability reflects the skeleton's living nature, a system that responds gently yet precisely to the rhythms of life. The cells responsible for this process work in balance. Osteoblasts are the builders, depositing minerals such as calcium and phosphate to form new bone. Osteoclasts are the sculptors, breaking down old bone tissue and releasing minerals back into the bloodstream. Together, they ensure that the skeleton remains strong and healthy, repairing tiny fractures, maintaining mineral balance, and adjusting structure to meet the needs of the body. Without this constant cycle, bones would grow brittle, vulnerable to breakage and weakness. With it, they remain resilient, capable of withstanding both the subtle pressures of daily life and the greater stresses of movement and weight. The importance of calcium in this process cannot be overstated. Bones serve as a vast reservoir for calcium, storing it in large quantities and releasing it when the body requires more. This mineral is essential not only for bone strength but also for vital processes such as muscle contraction, nerve signaling, and blood clotting. When calcium levels in the blood dip too low, the body calls upon the bones to supply what is needed, and when levels are too high, bones absorb and store the excess. In this way, the skeleton serves as both structure and guardian, managing resources for the entire body while maintaining its own integrity. Bone growth and development also reveal themselves in healing. When a bone is fractured, the process of repair reflects the same principles that guided its original formation. First, blood rushes to the site, forming a clot that provides stability. Next, a soft callus of cartilage begins to form, bridging the gap. Over time, this cartilage ossifies, hardening into new bone. Finally, remodeling smooths and reshapes the healed area, restoring strength and function. Though the process may take weeks or months, the outcome is a testament to the living quality of bone. It is not a passive material, but one that responds, repairs, and renews itself with quiet determination. Bone development is influenced by many factors, from nutrition to hormones to activity. Adequate intake of calcium and vitamin D ensures that bones have the materials needed for growth and strength. Hormones such as growth hormone and sex hormones play critical roles in regulating ossification and growth plate activity. Physical activity, too, leaves a lasting imprint on bone. Weight-bearing exercise stimulates bone formation, increasing density and strength, while inactivity can lead to gradual loss of mass. In this way, the skeleton reflects the life lived upon it, adapting to movement, nourishment, and environment. Even in later years, when the skeleton has long since finished growing, it continues to change. With age, the balance between building and breakdown may shift, leading to a gradual loss of density. Bones may become lighter, more fragile, more prone to fracture. Yet even here, the living framework persists, continuing its cycle of renewal, continuing its quiet service. The story of bone growth is not confined to childhood but stretches across the entire lifespan. A story of change, adaptation, and endurance. As you think of this process, imagine it as a gentle unfolding, a slow and steady shaping of form. Picture the skeleton in its earliest stage, soft and pliable, a framework of cartilage. Picture the first sparks of ossification, tiny centers of bone forming within that softness. Picture the growth plates at work, pushing bones longer, giving height and shape to the body. Picture the remodeling that never ceases, the dance of cells that keep the skeleton strong and alive. And finally, picture the resilience of repair, the quiet knitting together of bone after injury, as if the skeleton were determined to remain whole. This is the story of bone growth and development, not a story of something fixed and rigid, but of something living and flowing. The skeleton is a framework, yes, but one that is shaped and reshaped across time, carrying the imprint of growth, the memory of adaptation, and the wisdom of resilience. It is a story that begins before birth and continues until life's final breath. A story told not in words but in silence, within the hidden depths of the body. To reflect upon it is to find calm, for it reveals the quiet patience of the body, the steady strength that grows and endures, and the living foundation that supports every step of the journey. 4. Bone as living tissue. When people picture a bone, they often think of something hard, white, and silent. Perhaps the image is of a skeleton in a museum case, or of a fossil unearthed from the ground, long separated from the life it once supported. It is natural to imagine bones as dry and lifeless, yet the truth is very different. In a living body, bone is not static at all. It is a tissue alive with activity, quietly pulsing with life. Each bone is an organ, carefully built from cells, fluids, minerals, and connective elements that work together in balance. To call it a living tissue is not poetry, but fact. The outer surface of a bone feels solid to the touch, but beneath this strength lies a complexity as rich as any other organ. Bone is composed of two interwoven parts, an organic matrix made mostly of collagen fibers, and an inorganic component made of mineral crystals, primarily calcium phosphate. These two materials are very different in nature, yet together they create something extraordinary. The collagen gives bone resilience, allowing it to bend slightly under pressure without breaking. The minerals lend hardness, allowing the skeleton to support weight and protect delicate organs. If bone were only mineral, it would shatter at the first impact. If it were only collagen, it would sag and fold under its own weight. By blending these two substances, the body creates a framework both sturdy and flexible, capable of withstanding the strains of life. Within this structure live three main types of bone cells, each with its own quiet role. Osteoblasts are the builders. They lay down new bone tissue, secreting collagen and minerals that strengthen and thicken the matrix. Osteoclasts are the sculptors. They break down old bone, dissolving it and releasing minerals into the bloodstream where they can be used elsewhere in the body. Between these two is a third group, the osteocytes, mature cells that live deep inside the bone's chambers. Osteocytes act as watchful guardians, monitoring stress and signaling when new growth or repair is needed. Together, these cells create a living cycle, building, breaking, repairing, and reshaping, all without pause. This cycle is known as bone remodeling, and it continues throughout life. In childhood, the rate of building is greater, allowing the skeleton to grow taller and stronger. In adulthood, building and breakdown are usually balanced, keeping bones dense and healthy. With age, the balance may tilt, and more bone is lost than created. Yet even then, the process never stops. At any given moment, parts of your skeleton are being dissolved, while other parts are being renewed. This constant turnover ensures that bones adapt to the body's needs, reinforcing areas of stress and repairing tiny cracks that occur in daily life. The skeleton is not made of one kind of bone but two, each with a distinct purpose. Compact bone, also called cortical bone, forms the dense outer layer. It is solid and strong, built to resist pressure and give shape. Beneath it lies spongy bone, or trabecular bone, a lighter structure filled with small, open spaces. Though it looks fragile, this spongy lattice distributes forces across many directions, absorbing shock and reducing weight. The combination of compact and spongy bone gives the skeleton both durability and lightness, allowing movement without heaviness. Within the open spaces of spongy bone lies marrow, one of the most remarkable tissues of the body. Marrow is the birthplace of blood cells. Red marrow produces red blood cells, which carry oxygen, and white blood cells, which defend against infection. It also produces platelets, which allow blood to clot. Yellow marrow, found in other bones, stores fat as a source of energy. In the marrow, billions of cells are born each day, entering the bloodstream to nourish and protect the body. Thus, bone is not just a supporting structure, but a cradle of life, a hidden factory working quietly within. Bones are deeply connected to the rest of the body. Blood vessels run through them, delivering oxygen and nutrients. Nerves reach into them, making them sensitive to pressure and pain. Hormones circulate through them, guiding growth and mineral balance. The skeleton responds to the forces placed upon it. If you walk, run, or lift, your bones gradually thicken to handle the strain. If you are still for long periods, they may thin, conserving resources but losing strength. This adaptability is captured in Wolff's Law, the principle that bone reshapes itself according to the stress it endures. Every step, every stretch, every movement leaves a gentle imprint, encouraging bones to reinforce where they are needed most. Mineral balance is one of the skeleton's quietest but most important roles. Calcium and phosphorus, stored in large amounts within bone, are essential for life. Calcium is needed for muscles to contract, for nerves to signal, for blood to clot. When the level of calcium in the blood drops, the body signals the bones to release some of their reserves. When levels rise, bones absorb and store it again. This constant exchange ensures that the body's chemistry remains stable. Without bones acting as reservoirs, even the most basic functions of life would falter. The living nature of bone is also revealed in healing. When a bone fractures, it does not remain broken forever. First, blood collects at the site, forming a clot that stabilizes the area. Then, a soft callus of cartilage appears, bridging the gap. Over time, this callus ossifies, transforming into hard bone. Finally, the remodeling process smooths and strengthens the repair, restoring the bone to its original strength. This quiet patience, the ability to mend itself, sets bone apart from many other tissues. It is a reminder that even in moments of damage, the body carries within it the power of renewal. The health of bone depends on many factors. Nutrition supplies the building blocks, especially calcium and vitamin D. Activity stimulates growth, as weight-bearing movement encourages bones to add density. Hormones regulate the pace, with growth hormone guiding development in childhood, and sex hormones supporting bone strength in adulthood. Even sunlight plays a role, as it enables the body to produce vitamin D, essential for absorbing calcium. Bones are, in this way, mirrors of the life they support. They reflect the food that nourishes them, the movements that challenge them, the rhythms of growth and age. With time, bones change, just as all living tissues do. In youth, they are pliable and growing, able to bend and heal quickly. In adulthood, they are strong and balanced, holding the body steady. In age, they may lose some of their density, becoming lighter and more fragile. Yet even then, they remain alive, still renewing, still adapting, still carrying the weight of life with quiet persistence. To imagine bone as living tissue is to see it not as a silent relic but as a companion, one that works without rest, supporting every breath, every step, every gesture. It is not fixed, but flowing. It is not brittle, but resilient. It is not lifeless, but alive with cells, blood, and renewal. Beneath the skin, beneath the muscles, beneath every outward motion, this living tissue carries on its patient work. As you drift toward calmness, you might picture this framework within yourself. Compact bone forming the sturdy walls, spongy bone shaping the lattice within, marrow glowing softly with new life, cells building and repairing in silence. A framework that does not shout or demand, but simply exists, strong and enduring. This is bone as it truly is, not dead, not static, but alive, a tissue that whispers of patience, resilience, and quiet strength. And as it supports you, it reminds you that even in stillness, life continues to flow unseen, steady, and eternal. 5. Axial versus appendicular skeleton. The human skeleton, though one interconnected framework, is often divided into two great regions that together create both strength and movement. These two regions are known as the axial skeleton and the appendicular skeleton. Thinking of them in this way helps us understand how the body is both rooted and mobile, both protective and expressive. The axial skeleton can be imagined as the central column of the body, the foundation that provides stability and shields the most delicate organs. The appendicular skeleton extends outward from this central core, forming the arms and legs, the structures that allow us to reach, to walk, to grasp, and to interact with the world. Together, these two systems form a balanced design, one focused on steadiness, the other on mobility, harmonizing in silence to create the human form. The axial skeleton is the central support, and it includes the skull, the vertebral column, and the ribcage. These bones form a straight and strong line through the middle of the body, anchoring everything else. The skull sits at the top, protecting the brain while shaping the face. The spine runs downward, a flexible column of vertebrae that both supports posture and allows movement. At the chest lies the rib cage, curving around the heart and lungs, giving them shelter, while also moving with every breath. In total, The axial skeleton contains 80 bones, each one devoted to the task of keeping the body safe and steady. When you stand upright, when you take a deep breath, or when you simply hold still, it is the axial skeleton that provides that central calmness, that quiet stability beneath every motion. The appendicular skeleton, by contrast, extends outward from the axial framework. It is made up of the arms and legs, as well as the shoulder girdle and the pelvic girdle that attach these limbs to the central column. The appendicular skeleton contains 126 bones, and these are the ones that grant freedom of movement. With them, we can walk, run, lift, grasp, and perform the countless gestures that define human life. Where the axial skeleton centers the body, the appendicular skeleton allows the body to explore and act. It is the bridge between stability and expression, turning potential energy into graceful motion. The division between axial and appendicular is not simply an academic distinction. It reveals something about the dual nature of the human body. On one hand, we need protection. The brain, the heart, and the lungs are too precious to be exposed. The axial skeleton, like a shield, surrounds and guards these organs, giving them the safety they require to carry out their functions. On the other hand, we need freedom. We need to reach outward, to explore the environment, to move from place to place, to hold and to create. The appendicular skeleton, with its arms and legs, gives us this gift. The two systems complement one another perfectly. Without the axial skeleton, the body would collapse inward, vulnerable and unstable. Without the appendicular skeleton, the body would be fixed in place, unable to move or interact. It is the union of both that allows us to live as we do. Imagine the axial skeleton as a tree trunk, tall and strong, rooted in the ground. From this trunk extend branches, flexible and far-reaching, capable of swaying, bending, and grasping. The appendicular skeleton is like those branches, moving freely yet always anchored to the trunk for stability. The two systems are inseparable. Just as a tree cannot be only trunk or only branches, the body cannot be only central axis or only limbs. Each relies on the other. The branches without the trunk would fall, and the trunk without the branches would stand lifeless and bare. Together, they form a living whole. In daily life, this union reveals itself constantly. When you walk, the legs of the appendicular skeleton push you forward, but they do so only because the spine of the axial skeleton provides balance. When you reach out with your arm, the movement flows from the shoulder girdle, yet it depends on the ribs and spine to stabilize the body. Even something as simple as breathing involves both systems working together. The ribs expand and contract from the axial skeleton, while the shoulders and arms of the appendicular skeleton adjust to make space and ease the motion. Every action is a partnership, a blending of steadiness and motion. The axial skeleton also provides the central path for the nervous system. Within the spine lies the spinal cord, a delicate bundle of nerves that connects the brain to the rest of the body. The vertebral column protects this cord with its series of bony arches, shielding it from harm while allowing signals to flow freely. The appendicular skeleton, meanwhile, receives those signals and translates them into action. The brain sends the command to move, the spinal cord carries the message, and the limbs respond. In this way, the axial skeleton acts as protector and conduit, while the appendicular skeleton serves as instrument and performer. There is also a balance of scale between the two systems. The bones of the axial skeleton are fewer but larger in purpose, devoted to central stability. The appendicular skeleton contains more bones, smaller in size but greater in number, designed for flexibility and precision. Consider the hands and feet. each filled with many tiny bones that allow for delicate control. These bones are part of the appendicular system, and they contrast with the broad, protective skull of the axial skeleton, which is designed not for motion, but for safety. The interplay of large and small, central and extended, strong and delicate, gives the skeleton its full range of function. The relationship between axial and appendicular skeleton also reflects the journey of evolution. The earliest vertebrate creatures were primarily axial beings, with strong spines and protective skulls but limited limbs. Over time, limbs developed, giving rise to mobility and new ways of interacting with the world. The appendicular skeleton expanded the possibilities of life, allowing creatures to swim, walk, climb, and eventually manipulate their environment. Yet through all of this, the axial skeleton remained essential, providing the central support around which everything else could grow. Even today, this balance echoes in every step we take, every movement of the arm, every breath that fills the lungs. Thinking of the skeleton in this divided yet united way brings a sense of calm appreciation. It shows us how structure and freedom coexist, how protection and expression are balanced in a single body. The axial skeleton reminds us of the need for stillness, for rootedness, for the security that allows life to thrive. The appendicular skeleton reminds us of the joy of movement, the freedom to explore and act, the gestures that give life its character. Together, they create harmony, one anchoring, the other extending, one shielding, the other reaching. As you reflect on this balance, you might imagine your own body in its quiet union. Picture the central column of skull, spine, and ribs, strong and steady like the trunk of a tree. Then picture the arms and legs extending outward like branches, moving freely, light and graceful. The two are not separate but joined, creating the form that carries you each day. In every breath, in every step, in every moment of stillness, this harmony is at work, a silent partnership that sustains life. The human skeleton is more than bones. It is an architecture of balance, a union of the axial and appendicular, the steady and the free. To see it this way is to see yourself as both rooted and reaching, both grounded and expressive. The skeleton is not a simple frame, but a living system, one that blends protection with motion, safety with freedom. And as you rest, you may take comfort in this balance, knowing that within you, strength and grace are always united, always carrying you forward, always keeping you safe in silence. 6. The skull, a vault of protection. At the very top of the human skeleton rests one of its most remarkable creations, the skull. It is both shield and sculpture, both fortress and foundation. Within its protective walls lies the brain, the command center of the body, a treasure of immeasurable value. Around it, the bones of the face provide form and expression, shaping the features that make each person unique. The skull is more than just a hard casing. It is a vault of protection, a framework of subtle joints and careful curves, designed to guard the delicate organs of sight, sound, taste, and thought. When you pause to consider the skull, you see not a simple shell, but a masterpiece of structure, one that balances safety with beauty, endurance with delicacy. The skull is made up of 22 bones in total, each one shaped with intention and joined to the others in silent union. These bones are divided into two groups, the cranial bones and the facial bones. The cranial bones form the rounded case that encloses the brain, while the facial bones create the contours of the face, the jaw, the orbit of the eyes, and the framework that supports breathing and eating. Though we often think of the skull as a single object, it is in truth a collection of parts. each playing its role, each fitting seamlessly with the others. Together, they create a structure at once strong and expressive, one that protects the most vital organ, while also giving form to the outward appearance. The cranial bones are 8 in number, and they form the dome and base that cradle the brain. The frontal bone lies at the front, shaping the forehead and the roof of the eye sockets. Behind it are the parietal bones, 2 broad plates that form much of the sides and roof of the skull. At the back lies the occipital bone, curved and strong, with a large opening called the foramen magnum, through which the spinal cord passes. At the lower sides are the temporal bones, sheltering the delicate organs of hearing. At the very center, deep within, lies the sphenoid, a bone shaped almost like a butterfly, linking the skull together with hidden strength. Near it rests the ethmoid bone, light and spongy, forming part of the nasal cavity and the orbit of the eyes. These cranial bones lock together like pieces of a puzzle, forming the rounded vault that protects the brain. The facial bones are more delicate, yet no less important. There are 14 in total, and they shape the features that define each human face. The maxillae form the upper jaw, holding the upper teeth and shaping the roof of the mouth. The mandible, or lower jaw, is the only bone of the skull that moves freely, opening and closing with every word and every bite. The zygomatic bones create the cheekbones, curving outward with grace. The nasal bones, small and slender, form the bridge of the nose. Other bones, such as the lacrimal and palatine bones, though less visible, play crucial roles in forming the orbits and cavities that support breathing and vision. Together, these bones give the face its contours, its openings, and its strength. What makes the skull extraordinary is the way these many bones are joined. Most are fused together by sutures, immovable joints that knit the bones so tightly they appear as one. These sutures are not harsh lines but gentle seams, woven with patience during early life. In infancy, the skull is not yet fully fused. Soft regions known as fontanelles allow flexibility, helping the head pass safely at birth and giving room for the brain to grow. As the child matures, these spaces gradually close, the bones knitting together to form a continuous shield. By adulthood, the sutures remain as faint traces, reminders of the skull's growth, evidence of the quiet journey from softness to strength. Within the skull, space is carefully carved to protect and house delicate organs. The orbits are bony hollows that cradle the eyes, protecting them while leaving room for movement and sight. The nasal cavity, complex and layered, filters and warms the air we breathe. The auditory regions of the temporal bones shelter the structures of hearing, tiny mechanisms that translate sound into sensation. Even the tongue and teeth, though not bones themselves, rely on the framework of the skull to give them position and function. Every sense that connects us to the world has its foundation in the skull. Every gesture of the face rests upon its subtle scaffolding. The skull is also remarkable in the way it reflects both strength and lightness. Though it must protect the brain from harm, it is not a solid block of bone. Within it are air-filled spaces known as sinuses, which lighten the weight of the skull while also resonating sound. This balance of solidity and openness makes the skull strong enough to endure impacts, yet light enough to be carried without strain. It is a careful design, one that shows how nature blends protection with efficiency. Perhaps one of the most striking features of the skull is the jaw, or mandible. Unlike most bones of the skull, which are fused and immobile, the mandible moves freely. It opens and closes with ease, allowing for speech, for chewing, for expression. Its joint with the temporal bone, called the temporomandibular joint, is one of the most flexible in the body, capable of sliding and rotating in multiple directions. With this motion, the face comes alive, Words are spoken, food is shared, and emotions are expressed. The mandible reminds us that the skull is not only a vault of protection, but also a foundation for interaction and life. Beyond its physical role, the skull has long carried symbolic meaning. Across cultures and centuries, it has been seen as a symbol of mortality, of memory, of identity. To hold the shape of a skull is to be reminded of the delicate balance between life and death, between the living mind and the silent frame that protects it. Yet in its living state, the skull is not a symbol of loss but of resilience. It holds the brain safe through every breath, through every moment of thought, through every expression of joy or sorrow. It is not only a reminder of endings, but also a quiet guardian of beginnings, of growth, of experience. When you think of the skull, imagine it not as something distant or cold, but as something intimately your own. Beneath your face, beneath your skin, it rests always in silence, holding your brain, shaping your expression, protecting your sight and breath. Picture the dome of cranial bones curving around your thoughts like a vaulted ceiling, a quiet cathedral of protection. Picture the facial bones as sculptors of identity, giving form to your smile, your words, your gaze. Picture the sutures as threads of patience, woven over years, binding strength with delicacy. The skull is indeed a vault of protection, but it is also more. It is an expression of the human form, a shield that also shapes identity, a fortress that also gives room for expression. Strong yet light, fused yet flexible, ancient in its design yet living in every moment, the skull is one of nature's quiet masterpieces. And as you drift into calmness, you may carry with you the thought of this silent guardian, resting above you, shielding your thoughts, shaping your breath, and reminding you that even in stillness, you are held in safety and strength. 7. The sutures of the skull. When we imagine the skull, it is easy to think of it as a single solid piece, a perfect dome that holds the brain in silence. Yet the truth is more intricate, and in its intricacy lies a quiet kind of beauty. The skull is not one bone, but many, joined together with lines that are delicate yet strong. These lines are known as sutures, and they are among the most fascinating features of the human skeleton. They are not cracks, though at first glance they may appear so, but carefully formed joints, woven like threads that stitch bone to bone. The sutures of the skull are symbols of patience and time, of growth and change, of union that comes slowly, yet endures with strength. Sutures are fibrous joints, meaning that they are formed from strong connective tissue that binds the edges of bones. Unlike the joints of the limbs, they do not move, and their purpose is not to allow motion, but to create stillness. They hold the skull together with such precision that the many bones act as one seamless vault. And yet, these joints are not lifeless. They represent a gradual process, one that begins in infancy, continues through childhood, and only completes itself in maturity. To trace the sutures is to trace the story of the skull's growth, from softness to strength, from flexibility to permanence. In the newborn, the skull is not yet fused. At birth, the cranial bones remain separate, connected only by soft membranes. These spaces, called fontanelles, are regions where the bones have not yet met. They give the skull a degree of flexibility, allowing it to compress slightly during birth and pass safely into the world. They also provide room for the brain to grow rapidly in the early years of life. The largest fontanelle, at the top of the head, is shaped like a diamond and is often called the soft spot. Parents are cautioned to protect this area, for beneath its gentle surface lies the still-forming shield of the brain. Over time, the fontanelles gradually close, the bones meeting and fusing as the child grows. What was once open and soft becomes firm and secure, and the sutures begin to take their final form. There are many sutures in the skull, each one marking the boundary where two bones meet. The coronal suture runs across the top of the head, from ear to ear, joining the frontal bone with the two parietal bones. It is like a band across the forehead, invisible beneath the skin yet shaping the line of the skull. The sagittal suture runs from front to back, joining the two parietal bones at the crown. The lambdoid suture lies at the back, joining the parietal bones with the occipital bone, curving gently like the Greek letter lambda, from which it takes its name. Along the sides, the squamous sutures join the parietal bones with the temporal bones, their lines thinner and more delicate. Each suture is unique in its path, some straight, others curved, all interlocking in a way that resembles the teeth of a zipper. This interlocking pattern gives strength, preventing separation, even under pressure. These sutures are more than seams. They are evidence of the skull's story. They mark the places where once there was space, where bone grew and reached across, where fibers connected, and where union was achieved. Even in adulthood, when the sutures are fully fused, the lines remain visible, like gentle reminders of the journey. They are a map of growth, etched into the surface of the skull, showing where separate parts came together to create a whole. Though sutures are immovable, they are not without purpose beyond joining bones. They provide a degree of shock absorption, distributing impact across the skull and lessening the force on any one bone. Their fibrous nature gives just enough flexibility to prevent fractures from spreading too easily. In this way, sutures are protective as well as unifying, ensuring that the skull can endure both time and impact with resilience. The sutures also remind us of the delicate balance between rigidity and flexibility. Too soon a fusion, and the skull cannot expand, restricting the growth of the brain. Too late a fusion, and the skull remains vulnerable. The timing must be exact, and it usually is, guided by the body's deep intelligence. Most sutures close in late adolescence or early adulthood, though some remain partially open into later years. In some individuals, small extra bones may form along the sutures, known as Wormian bones, unique variations that show how even in its stillness, the skull retains traces of individuality. Beyond their biological role, sutures carry a kind of symbolic meaning. They remind us that strength often comes not from single pieces but from union. The skull is powerful not because it is one unbroken bone, but because it is many bones held together with care. The lines that seem to divide are in truth the lines that bind. They are seams of strength, woven into the very fabric of our form. If you imagine the skull in quiet reflection, picture these sutures as gentle rivers flowing across its surface. They wind and interlock, meeting at points where several bones converge, like crossroads of structure. They are not flaws, but artistry. They give the skull not only its resilience, but also its beauty. Subtle lines that trace the passage of growth, the memory of softness, and the arrival of strength. To run your thoughts over the coronal suture is to imagine the joining of the face with the crown, the meeting of the frontal and parietal bones. To follow the sagittal suture is to imagine the two halves of the crown joining together in silent symmetry. To trace the lambdoid suture is to picture the back of the skull, curving gently like a protective arch. Each suture carries a quiet dignity, a reminder that even the strongest vault was once many parts, joined slowly into one. In rest, when the body lies still, the sutures remain as silent guardians, holding the skull firm around the brain. They do not move, they do not shift, they simply exist as lines of union. Yet in their stillness is a story of motion, of growth, of gradual closing. They are records of time, etched not in words but in the meeting of bone. As you reflect on the sutures of the skull, You may find calm in their lesson. They teach that strength comes with patience, that unity comes from connection, that what was once separate can become whole. They are not scars but seams of creation, reminders that growth often leaves lines behind, and that these lines are beautiful in their endurance. The skull, with its vault and its face, would not be what it is without these sutures. They give it form, they give it resilience, and they give it memory. They are the quiet threads that bind the bones into one harmonious whole. And as you drift into calmness, you may imagine these lines resting within you, holding your thoughts in safety, tracing gentle paths across the dome of the skull, silent reminders of growth, connection, and the quiet strength of union. 8. The spine, a flexible column. At the center of the human body rises a structure both strong and supple, a column of bone that gives shape to the torso and balance to the entire frame. This is the spine, also known as the vertebral column, and it is one of the most remarkable parts of the skeleton. Without it, the body would have no upright posture, no graceful bending, no twisting or turning. It is at once a pillar of support and a ribbon of movement, combining firmness with flexibility. It protects the spinal cord, one of the most delicate structures of the nervous system, while also allowing the body to bend forward, arch backward, and rotate from side to side. The spine is a marvel of design, both simple in its appearance and intricate in its detail. A flexible column that carries the weight of life with patience and strength. The vertebral column is composed of 33 bones in total, known as vertebrae, though in adulthood some of these fuse, leaving 26 distinct bones. These vertebrae are arranged in a vertical line, one stacked upon the other, like a series of small blocks carefully balanced. Yet they are not rigidly locked together. Between them lie discs of cartilage that cushion movement, allowing the spine to flex without harm. Ligaments and muscles weave around the bones, holding them in place, guiding motion, and lending stability. Together, these elements create a structure that is firm yet yielding, capable of bearing the full weight of the body, while also responding to its need for motion. The spine is divided into regions, each with its own character and function. At the top lies the cervical region, composed of 7 vertebrae in the neck. These are the smallest and most delicate of the vertebrae, yet they carry the weight of the head and allow it to turn, tilt, and nod with ease. 2 of these vertebrae are especially distinctive. The first, known as the atlas, cradles the skull like a supportive ring, allowing the head to nod up and down. The second, called the axis, provides a pivot, enabling the head to rotate from side to side. Together, the atlas and axis give the head its remarkable freedom of motion, a combination of strength and delicacy found in few other joints. Below the cervical region lies the thoracic spine, composed of 12 vertebrae. These are larger and more robust, designed to anchor the ribs and form the framework of the chest. Their role is more protective than mobile, guarding the heart and lungs while still permitting a degree of twisting and bending. Each thoracic vertebra connects with a pair of ribs, creating a cage that expands and contracts with every breath. This region of the spine is less flexible than the neck or lower back, but its purpose is not to bend freely. It is to shield, to steady, and to support. Next is the lumbar spine, composed of 5 vertebrae in the lower back. These are the largest and strongest of all, built to carry the weight of the entire upper body. Their thick, sturdy bodies give them the strength to bear heavy loads, while their design allows for significant bending and flexing. When you lean forward to tie a shoe, arch backward to stretch, or twist to look behind you, it is the lumbar spine that provides the motion. Yet this strength and flexibility also make it vulnerable, and it is here that strain and discomfort are most often felt. Still, the lumbar spine remains a remarkable balance of power and grace, carrying the body with steadfast endurance. Beneath the lumbar region lies the sacrum, a triangular bone formed from 5 vertebrae fused together. The sacrum connects the spine to the pelvis, anchoring the column firmly to the base of the body. It serves as a bridge between the central axis and the legs, distributing weight evenly and providing stability for standing and walking. At the very end of the spine is the coccyx, often called the tailbone, a small structure formed from 3 to 5 fused vertebrae. Though tiny and often overlooked, the coccyx serves as an anchor for muscles and ligaments, completing the spine's long journey from neck to base. The spine is not a straight rod but a gentle series of curves, each one contributing to balance and resilience. The cervical and lumbar regions curve inward, while the thoracic and sacral regions curve outward. These curves allow the spine to act as a spring, absorbing shock and distributing weight with efficiency. When you walk or run, the curves ensure that the impact is softened, preventing jarring force from reaching the brain. They also help maintain balance, allowing the body to remain upright with minimal effort. Without these curves, the spine would be stiff and awkward, prone to strain. With them, it becomes a graceful column, strong enough to carry yet flexible enough to move. Between each pair of vertebrae lies an intervertebral disc, soft at the center and tough at the edge. These discs act as cushions, absorbing shock and allowing the vertebrae to move against one another without friction. The outer ring of the disc is firm and fibrous, while the inner core is softer, filled with a gel-like substance. Together, they provide both resilience and flexibility. Without these discs, every step would send jolts through the body, and the spine would wear down quickly. With them, motion becomes smooth and cushioned, a gentle balance between strength and softness. Within the hollow channel formed by the vertebrae runs the spinal cord, a delicate extension of the brain. It is protected by the bony arches of the vertebrae, which form a tunnel around it. From the spinal cord branch nerves that extend to every part of the body, carrying signals of sensation and movement. The vertebral column thus acts not only as a pillar of support, but also as a shield for one of the body's most precious structures. It guards the spinal cord while still allowing the flexibility needed for daily life. The spine's role in posture is profound. It holds the head aloft, balances the shoulders, supports the torso, and connects to the pelvis. It allows the body to stand tall, to move with ease, and to rest with comfort. Its curves and flexibility give it grace, while its strength and stability give it endurance. Every gesture, from the smallest turn of the head to the longest stride, flows from the spine's quiet support. It is the central axis of the body, the column upon which all else depends. To reflect on the spine is to reflect on balance itself. It is a structure that embodies both firmness and yielding, both stillness and motion. It stands as a pillar, yet bends with ease. It shields the spinal cord, yet permits the body to twist and turn. It is a union of opposites, a design that endures through years of movement, work, and rest. When you stand tall, you feel its strength. When you bend or rest, you feel its flexibility. In every moment, the spine carries you with silent grace. As you imagine the spine within your own body, picture it as a gentle column rising from the base of the pelvis to the curve of the neck. See the vertebrae stacked one upon another, small at the top, larger at the base, each one shaped to fit its role. Imagine the discs between them, soft and resilient, cushioning every step. Picture the curves, flowing like waves, giving balance and resilience. And within the hollow core, picture the spinal cord, safe within its bony tunnel, carrying signals of life with quiet precision. The spine is not simply a column of bones. It is a living, flexible pillar, one that protects, supports, and moves with us through every stage of life. It is strength and suppleness combined, a reminder that endurance and grace are not opposites but companions. And as you rest, you may take comfort in knowing that within you lies this flexible column, rising in silence, steady and patient, carrying you with balance through every breath and every moment of stillness. 9. The intervertebral discs, between the bones of the spine, quietly hidden from view yet essential for comfort and motion, lie the intervertebral discs. These soft, resilient structures are among the most important features of the vertebral column, though they often go unnoticed until they falter. Without them, the spine would be rigid, each vertebra grinding against its neighbor with harsh friction. With them, the spine becomes flexible, able to bend and twist, able to carry weight without pain, able to absorb the countless impacts that occur each day as we walk, move, and rest. They are cushions, yet they are more than cushions. They are stabilizers, protectors, and silent partners in nearly every motion of the body. To reflect on them is to see how softness and strength work together, how something small and hidden can sustain so much of life's grace. There are 23 intervertebral discs in the adult spine, placed between nearly every vertebra from the neck down to the lower back. None are found between the first two cervical vertebrae, the atlas and axis, which are shaped differently and rely on unique joints for their motion. Everywhere else, the discs stand as guardians, resting between bones, cushioning each movement. Though small, each disc is carefully designed. Together, they form about 1/4 of the length of the spine, adding not only height but also flexibility. They create a sense of space within the column, separating bone from bone while uniting the structure into a single, harmonious whole. Each disc is composed of two main parts. At the center lies the nucleus pulposus, a soft, gel-like core that holds water and distributes pressure evenly. Surrounding it is the annulus fibrosus, a tough, fibrous ring made of layers of collagen. The annulus encases the nucleus like a protective wall, keeping it in place while allowing it to compress and expand. This combination of soft core and strong ring gives the disc its unique properties. It can deform under pressure, spreading force across its surface, then return to shape when the pressure is lifted. It can bend and flex without tearing, guiding the movement of the vertebrae while preventing them from grinding together. Imagine stepping down from a small height, the force of gravity pressing through the body. Without the discs, the shock would travel unsoftened, jarring the spine with every impact. With the discs, the nucleus pulposus absorbs the load, spreading it outward to the annulus, which holds firm and distributes the force across the entire vertebral surface. This happens not once, but thousands of times each day, with every step, every bend, every twist. The discs act as silent springs, compressing slightly under load, rebounding gently when released. They make movement smooth, absorbing shock with patience, protecting the delicate spinal cord within and the bones without. The intervertebral discs are also vital for flexibility. Because of them, the spine can bend forward and backward, tilt side to side, and rotate with ease. Each disc allows a small degree of motion, but when combined across the length of the spine, these small movements add up to a wide range of flexibility. Without the discs, the spine would be stiff, like a column of stone. With them, it becomes supple, able to adapt to the flow of daily life. When you lean forward to tie a shoe, or arch backward to stretch, or twist to look behind you, It is the discs that permit the vertebrae to glide over one another in harmony. The health of the discs depends on their structure and on the care of the body. Unlike many tissues, discs do not have a direct blood supply. Instead, they receive nutrients by diffusion from the nearby vertebrae. Movement is essential for this process, for as the discs compress and release, fluids flow in and out, carrying nourishment to the cells within. This is one reason why motion and activity are vital for spinal health. When the body moves, the discs are refreshed. When the body is still for too long, they may stiffen and lose their resilience. They are tissues that thrive on rhythm, on the gentle compression and release of daily life. Over time, the discs naturally change. In youth, they are filled with water, supple and resilient, able to absorb shock with ease. With age, they may gradually lose some of this fluid, becoming drier and thinner. Their height decreases, and with it, the overall height of the body may lessen slightly. The spaces between vertebrae narrow, and flexibility may reduce. Yet even in later years, the discs continue their service, protecting and cushioning, though perhaps with less resilience than before. They are patient companions, enduring decades of use with quiet strength. Sometimes, the discs face greater challenges. If the annulus fibrosus weakens, the nucleus pulposus may press outward, creating what is known as a herniated disc. This can place pressure on nearby nerves, leading to discomfort. Yet even in these cases, the disc remains a testament to the living nature of the skeleton. It shows that the spine is not unchanging, but dynamic, always adapting, sometimes vulnerable. These conditions remind us not of weakness, but of the extraordinary work the discs perform, bearing countless loads, enduring countless motions, all without complaint. Beyond their mechanics, the discs also carry symbolic meaning. They are reminders that strength often relies on softness. The vertebrae are hard, unyielding, built for endurance. Between them lie the discs, soft and yielding, built for resilience. The two together create balance. Without hardness, the spine would collapse. Without softness, it would shatter. The discs show how life requires both the unyielding and the flexible, the strong and the gentle. It is in their union that stability and motion become possible. As you picture your own spine, imagine these discs resting quietly between each vertebra. Picture the gel-like cores, filled with fluid, spreading pressure evenly with every step. Picture the fibrous rings, layered like concentric walls, holding firm with every motion. Picture the rhythm of compression and release as you move, the flow of nourishment entering with every change of posture. They are not seen, yet they are always working, always cushioning. The intervertebral discs remind us that the body is not only a framework of bone but also a harmony of tissues, each playing its role. They are the quiet guardians of the spine, small yet essential, soft yet strong. Without them, the spine could not bend, could not twist, could not endure the daily rhythm of life. With them, it becomes a flexible column, capable of carrying us through every gesture and every step. To reflect on the discs is to find calm in their silent service. They work without recognition, absorbing the shocks of life, smoothing the motions of the body, protecting the nervous system within. They ask for nothing, yet they give endlessly, sustaining balance and comfort. And as you rest, you may carry with you the thought of these quiet cushions, resting between the bones of your spine, soft guardians of motion, patient companions of every breath, every step, and every moment of stillness. 10. The ribcage, a shelter for breath, encircling the chest like a protective lattice. The ribcage stands as one of the most elegant structures in the human body. It is both shield and cradle, strong enough to guard the delicate organs within, yet flexible enough to expand and contract with every breath. At first glance, it may appear as a simple series of curved bones, but in truth it is a marvel of balance, a frame that embodies both security and movement. The rib cage is a shelter for breath, a cage that is not confining but life-giving, holding within it the heart, the lungs, and the rhythm of respiration that sustains every moment of life. The rib cage is formed from the thoracic vertebrae at the back, the ribs that sweep outward and forward, and the sternum at the front. In total, it contains 24 ribs, 12 on each side, arranged in pairs like curved arches. Each rib attaches at the spine, where it meets the thoracic vertebrae, and most also attach to the sternum at the front, either directly or through bands of cartilage. The sternum itself is a long, flat bone lying in the center of the chest, sometimes called the breastbone. Together, these elements create a cage that is both strong and resilient, firm enough to withstand external force, yet elastic enough to allow the chest to rise and fall in the gentle tide of breathing. The ribs themselves are divided into groups, each with a slightly different role. The first 7 pairs are called true ribs, for they attach directly to the sternum by way of costal cartilage. These ribs form the upper part of the cage, a stable and protective arc. The next 3 pairs are called false ribs. They do not connect directly to the sternum, but instead attach through cartilage that joins them to the rib above. This arrangement gives the lower part of the rib cage greater flexibility. The final 2 pairs are called floating ribs, for they do not reach the sternum at all. They are shorter and lie at the back of the cage, providing protection to the kidneys but leaving the front open. This division between true, false, and floating ribs creates a balance of stability and mobility, ensuring that the rib cage can protect and yet also move. The sternum, though often overlooked, plays a central role in the rib cage. It is made up of 3 parts: the manubrium at the top, the body in the middle, and the xiphoid process at the bottom. The manubrium connects with the clavicles, or collarbones, forming part of the shoulder girdle, while the body provides broad surfaces for the ribs to join. The xiphoid process, though small, serves as an anchor for muscles of the diaphragm and abdominal wall. Together, these parts create a long central shield, one that ties the rib cage together, while also serving as a point of connection for many muscles. The rib cage's most obvious purpose is protection. Within its bounds lie the lungs, delicate sacs of tissue where oxygen is exchanged for carbon dioxide, and the heart, a muscular pump that drives blood through the entire body. These organs are too vital to be exposed. The ribs arch around them like bars of a cage, shielding them from blows or accidents. Yet unlike a prison cage, the rib cage is not designed to restrict but to support. It protects without confining, allowing the organs within to function freely, even dynamically. The very act of breathing depends on the flexibility of the rib cage, for it must expand with each inhalation and contract with each exhalation. Without such movement, life itself would falter. This motion is made possible by the cartilage that connects the ribs to the sternum, and by the joints at the spine. The costal cartilage is firm yet flexible, allowing the ribs to lift and widen slightly as the lungs expand. At the back, the ribs articulate with the thoracic vertebrae, forming joints that permit small rotations and gliding motions. When combined, these small movements become significant, raising and spreading the cage in the act of breathing. Muscles assist in this motion, most importantly the diaphragm, a broad dome of muscle beneath the lungs that contracts and flattens to draw air in. As the diaphragm moves, the ribs follow, lifting and widening, creating space for the lungs to fill. With each breath, the rib cage becomes a living structure, not static bone, but a dynamic framework that rises and falls in rhythm with life. Beyond breathing, the rib cage also plays a role in posture and movement. Muscles of the chest, back, and abdomen attach to its surfaces, drawing strength from its curved arches. The pectoral muscles, used in lifting and pushing, arise from the ribs and sternum. The intercostal muscles, small bands between the ribs, assist in breathing and stabilize the cage during motion. Even the abdominal muscles, vital for bending, twisting, and supporting the body, find anchorage along the ribs. In this way, the rib cage is not only a shelter, but also a foundation for movement, a central anchor from which many gestures arise. The shape of the rib cage also contributes to balance and grace. Its broad upper portion supports the shoulders and arms, giving them space to move freely, while its narrowing lower portion accommodates the organs of the abdomen. The gentle curve of the ribs distributes weight evenly, preventing strain on any single bone. The cage is light enough to allow motion, yet strong enough to resist pressure. This harmony of form and function makes it one of the most efficient structures in the body, a blend of architecture and adaptability. With age, the rib cage, like all parts of the skeleton, changes. The cartilage may lose some of its flexibility, becoming more rigid. The bones themselves may thin, becoming more fragile. Yet even in later years, the rib cage continues its work, protecting, supporting, and moving with every breath. It is a structure that endures, carrying the memory of decades of respiration, sheltering the organs through every heartbeat and every sigh. To think of the rib cage is to think of breath itself, for the two are inseparable. Every inhalation lifts the ribs, widening the chest like the opening of a gentle fan. Every exhalation lowers them, narrowing the chest as the air flows outward. This rhythm is constant, from the first cry of infancy to the quiet breaths of sleep. The rib cage is the silent partner in this rhythm, a framework that expands and contracts with tireless patience. It is not only a cage of bone, but also a cage of life, one that sustains the most essential act of living. As you imagine your own rib cage, picture the curved arches of bone sweeping around your chest, meeting at the sternum in front and attaching to the spine at the back. Picture the cartilage that links them, firm yet flexible, allowing motion without weakness. Picture the cage rising with each breath, spreading gently as air flows in, then narrowing again as air flows out. Within it, the heart beats steadily, and the lungs expand and contract, all held in safety by this elegant structure. The rib cage is a shelter, but it is also a reminder of the balance between strength and motion. It shields the most delicate organs of life, yet it does so without locking them in stillness. It provides space as well as protection, flexibility as well as security. It is a cage only in name, for in truth it is a cradle, a frame that holds the breath of life itself. And as you rest, you may carry with you the thought of this shelter within, rising and falling in quiet rhythm, protecting you with strength, while giving space for the gentle tide of breath that sustains you through every moment of calm. 11. The shoulder girdle. At the place where the arms meet the trunk lies a structure that is both delicate and strong, both mobile and supportive. This is the shoulder girdle, sometimes called the pectoral girdle, and it serves as the bridge between the axial skeleton and the appendicular skeleton. Without it, the arms would have no anchor, no base from which to extend, no connection to the central framework of the body. With it, the arms are granted both stability and freedom, capable of lifting, rotating, and reaching with extraordinary range. The shoulder girdle is not large, nor is it made of many bones, but its importance is profound. It is a platform for motion, a cradle for strength, and a quiet companion to every gesture of the upper limb. The shoulder girdle is composed of just two bones on each side, the clavicle, or collarbone, and the scapula, or shoulder blade. Together, they form a ring of support that links the arms to the chest. Though simple in number, these bones are complex in function. The clavicle and scapula must provide stability, yet they must also allow mobility. They must bear weight, yet they must also permit lightness. In their design, we see once again the body's gift for balance, the ability to combine opposing needs into one harmonious structure. The clavicle is a slender, curved bone that lies horizontally across the front of the chest, just above the first rib. It connects at one end to the sternum, at the manubrium, forming the sternoclavicular joint. At the other end, it connects to the scapula at the acromion, forming the acromioclavicular joint. This placement makes the clavicle a strut, holding the shoulder outward from the chest, giving the arms room to move freely. Without it, the shoulders would collapse inward, restricting the mobility of the upper limbs. The clavicle also acts as a shock absorber, transmitting forces from the arm to the trunk, protecting the delicate structures of the chest from strain. It is often one of the first bones to break in falls, precisely because it bears this burden of protection. Yet its healing is usually swift, a testament to its resilience. The scapula is a broad, flat bone that rests on the back of the ribcage. Shaped like a triangle, it provides a wide surface for the attachment of muscles that move the arm and shoulder. At its lateral edge lies a shallow depression called the glenoid cavity, which forms the socket for the head of the humerus, creating the shoulder joint. This joint, known as the glenohumeral joint, is one of the most mobile in the body, allowing the arm to rotate, lift, and swing with extraordinary freedom. Yet such mobility comes at a cost, for the joint is shallow and less stable than deeper sockets, relying heavily on muscles, tendons, and ligaments for support. The scapula itself moves as well, gliding along the back of the rib cage in a motion known as scapular rotation. This movement extends the range of the arm, allowing it to lift overhead and reach behind the back. The scapula is thus not a fixed plate, but a mobile platform, shifting with each gesture to enhance the flexibility of the shoulder. Together, the clavicle and scapula create a system that blends firmness with freedom. The clavicle provides the rigid support needed to hold the arm away from the body, while the scapula provides the flexible base needed to extend its range. They are joined not only by bone but also by a network of muscles, tendons, and ligaments that guide their motion and stabilize their positions. The shoulder girdle does not function in isolation, but as part of a complex interplay with the spine, the rib cage, and the muscles of the trunk. This interplay allows the arms to move with grace, strength, and precision. The muscles associated with the shoulder girdle are many and varied, each one contributing to stability and motion. The trapezius, large and fan-shaped, extends from the base of the skull to the scapula, lifting and rotating the shoulders. The deltoid, covering the shoulder like a rounded cap, raises the arm in multiple directions. The rotator cuff muscles, small but vital, surround the shoulder joint, holding the head of the humerus in place while allowing rotation. These muscles, along with others such as the pectoralis major and latissimus dorsi, work together to move the arms through their wide range of motions. Without the shoulder girdle, symphony of movement would have no foundation. The design of the shoulder girdle emphasizes mobility over stability, and this is what sets it apart from the pelvic girdle, which anchors the legs. Where the pelvis is strong, deep, and immovable, the shoulder girdle is light, shallow, and mobile. This difference reflects the distinct roles of the arms and legs. The legs must support the weight of the body, walk, and bear loads. The arms, by contrast, must move freely, reaching in all directions, performing delicate tasks, and expressing through gesture. The shoulder girdle allows this freedom, sacrificing some stability in order to grant the arms their extraordinary range. In daily life, we see the work of the shoulder girdle in every motion of the upper body. When you reach overhead to take something from a shelf, the scapula rotates, the clavicle lifts, and the humerus rises within the socket. When you push open a door, the clavicle transmits force from the arm to the chest. When you throw a ball, the scapula glides and tilts, coordinating with the arm to generate power. Even when you rest your hands in your lap, the shoulder girdle holds the arms outward, maintaining their position in gentle balance. It is always active, always adjusting, always guiding the arms in silence. The shoulder girdle also reflects the human story of adaptation and survival. In our ancient ancestors, the flexibility of the shoulder allowed climbing, swinging, and grasping in trees. Over time, as humans walked upright, the arms were freed from the task of locomotion, and the shoulder girdle evolved to allow even greater freedom of motion. This freedom made it possible to create tools, to throw with accuracy, to carry, to build, and to express. The shoulder girdle is thus not only a physical structure but also a key to human creativity, enabling the gestures that define culture, art, and communication. Though small compared to other parts of the skeleton, the shoulder girdle teaches us about balance. It shows how stability and motion are not opposites, but partners. The clavicle holds firm, while the scapula moves freely. The bones provide the base, while the muscles provide the motion. Together, they allow strength without heaviness, flexibility without weakness. The shoulder girdle is a reminder that even in the body, freedom requires support, and motion requires foundation. As you imagine your own shoulder girdle, picture the slender clavicles spanning across your chest like delicate bridges. Picture the broad scapulae resting on your back like silent wings, shifting slightly with each breath and each motion of the arm. Picture the humerus resting in the shallow socket, held in place by tendons and muscles, ready to move in any direction. Imagine the network of muscles rising and falling with each gesture, guiding and protecting the joint. In this quiet picture, you see the blend of strength and freedom, the balance that makes human movement so graceful. The shoulder girdle is not a structure we often notice, yet it is always at work. It supports the arms as they reach, it steadies them as they rest, it absorbs their forces, and it guides their motions. It is the silent bridge between trunk and limb, the anchor that grants freedom, the base that allows expression. To reflect on it is to appreciate the delicate balance of the body, the way in which bones and muscles cooperate to create both stability and motion. And as you rest, you may carry with you the thought of this quiet structure, lying across your chest and back, holding your arms in gentle suspension, always present, always balancing strength with freedom, always supporting the graceful flow of life's movements. 12. The upper limbs. From the shoulder girdle extend the upper limbs, the arms that allow humans to reach, to lift, to carry, to grasp, and to create. More than simple tools of movement, the upper limbs are extensions of expression, capable of both strength and delicacy. They can hold heavy loads, yet also perform the finest tasks, from threading a needle to brushing a canvas with gentle strokes. They can be raised in protection or extended in embrace. To study the bones of the upper limbs is to see the intricate balance between power and precision, stability and flexibility, endurance and grace. The upper limb is divided into regions, each defined by its major bones. At the top, just below the shoulder girdle, lies the humerus, the long bone of the upper arm. Below the elbow are two bones of the forearm, the radius and ulna, which lie side by side, twisting gently around each other as the hand turns. At the end of the limb are the bones of the wrist and hand, a complex array that grants humans one of their greatest gifts, dexterity. Together, these bones form the architecture of the arm, creating a limb capable of both sweeping power and subtle finesse. The humerus is the largest bone of the upper limb. At its upper end, it forms a rounded head that fits into the shallow socket of the scapula, creating the glenohumeral joint. This ball and socket arrangement allows the shoulder an extraordinary range of motion, far more than most other joints in the body. The humerus can rotate, lift, extend, and swing in wide arcs, making the arm one of the most versatile parts of the skeleton. Yet because the socket is shallow, this joint also relies heavily on muscles and ligaments for stability. The humerus itself is strong, shaped to bear the forces of lifting and pushing, yet light enough to allow speed and agility. At its lower end, it forms the elbow joint, connecting with the radius and ulna below. The elbow is a hinge, yet it is more than a simple hinge. It allows bending and straightening, but through its connection with the radius and ulna, it also permits rotation of the forearm. When you turn your hand from palm up to palm down, the radius crosses over the ulna in a graceful twist, a movement known as pronation and supination. This rotation, combined with the hinge of the elbow, gives the arm remarkable versatility. Few animals possess such range in their forelimbs, and it is this design that underlies much of the skill and creativity unique to humans. The radius and ulna together form the forearm, each with its own role. The ulna lies on the inner side, in line with the little finger. It is the more stable of the two bones, anchoring firmly into the humerus at the elbow. The radius lies on the outer side, in line with the thumb. It is more mobile, rotating around the ulna to turn the hand. This partnership reflects the balance of the body's design. One bone for stability, one for motion, together creating flexibility without weakness. At their lower ends, the radius and ulna form the wrist joint, connecting to the small bones of the hand. The wrist is composed of 8 small bones called carpals, arranged in 2 rows. These bones form a compact cluster, each one shaped to fit precisely with its neighbors. The carpals provide both stability and movement, allowing the hand to flex, extend, and rotate. Beyond them lie the metacarpals, 5 long bones that form the palm, and beyond those, the phalanges, the finger bones. Each finger has 3 phalanges, except for the thumb, which has 2. Altogether, the hand contains 27 bones, a remarkable number for such a small structure. This complexity is what gives the hand its unparalleled dexterity. The upper limbs are not only bones, but also a network of joints, ligaments, and muscles that bring the bones to life. The shoulder joint, though shallow, is stabilized by the rotator cuff, a group of small muscles and tendons that hold the humeral head in place. The elbow is reinforced by strong ligaments, ensuring stability even as the forearm rotates. The wrist is supported by bands of connective tissue that hold the carpals together while permitting movement, and the fingers are guided by delicate tendons that transmit motion from muscles in the forearm, allowing fine control. Each joint, each ligament, each muscle plays a role in balancing strength with precision. The versatility of the upper limbs is evident in daily life. When you lift a heavy object, the humerus, radius, and ulna act as sturdy levers, while muscles contract with power. When you write a word, the small bones of the wrist and hand move with subtle precision, guided by tendons and nerves. When you reach outward, the shoulder joint gives range, the elbow guides the angle, The wrist aligns the hand, and the fingers extend to touch. Every gesture, from the broad sweep of an arm to the fine pinch of thumb and forefinger, depends on this complex harmony of bones. The design of the upper limbs also reflects the human journey through time. In our distant ancestors, the forelimbs were used for climbing, grasping, and swinging among trees. Over millennia, as humans began to walk upright, the arms were freed from the duty of locomotion. No longer needed to bear the weight of walking, the upper limbs evolved toward greater flexibility and dexterity. This transformation gave rise to tool use, to art, to writing, to music, to all the gestures that define human culture. The bones of the humerus, radius, ulna, carpals, and phalanges carry this history within them, silent witnesses to humanity's unfolding story. Though remarkable, the upper limbs also reveal the trade-offs of design. The shoulder's wide range of motion comes with less stability, making it vulnerable to dislocation. The elbow's hinge, though strong, can be strained by repetitive motion. The wrist and fingers, though delicate, may suffer from overuse. Yet these vulnerabilities are the other side of freedom. The body accepts them in exchange for the gift of versatility, for the ability to move in countless ways. It is a reminder that every strength comes with balance, every freedom with care. As you imagine your own upper limbs, picture the humerus descending from the shoulder like a sturdy pillar, connecting at the elbow to the paired bones of the radius and ulna. Picture the radius twisting gently over the ulna as the hand turns, the carpals gliding together at the wrist, the metacarpals forming the palm, the phalanges extending outward as fingers. Picture the harmony of motion, the levers and hinges, the rotations and extensions. See how each part contributes to the whole, how strength and delicacy are woven together in one seamless design. The upper limbs are not only mechanical structures but also instruments of life and expression. They allow us to embrace, to create, to work, to communicate. They carry the memory of evolution, the labor of daily tasks, the joy of art and music, the intimacy of touch. Beneath the skin, the bones form the architecture, but together with muscles and nerves, they become instruments of human possibility. They are at once tools and symbols, at once practical and profound. In their quiet design, the upper limbs show us the union of strength and finesse, of stability and motion. They remind us that within the body lies not only the capacity to endure, but also the capacity to express, to shape, to connect. And as you rest, you may carry with you the thought of these limbs, extending outward in silent readiness, strong yet delicate, always prepared to move, to hold, to create, and to embrace the flow of life. 13. The hands and fingers. At the far end of the upper limbs, where motion becomes most refined and expression most delicate, lie the hands and fingers. They are among the most intricate creations of the human body, a system of bones, joints, and tendons that transform the strength of the arm into the precision of touch. The hand is both tool and symbol. It can lift and grasp, build and shape, but it can also soothe, gesture, and express. In the hands, the skeleton achieves its finest balance of power and delicacy, creating a structure capable of both endurance and artistry. The human hand contains 27 bones, more than the entire spine of some smaller creatures. These bones are arranged in 3 groups: the carpals, the metacarpals, and the phalanges. At the base of the hand, the carpals form the wrist, a compact cluster of 8 small bones arranged in 2 rows. Above them lie the metacarpals, 5 long bones that extend to form the palm. Beyond them are the phalanges, the finger bones, arranged in sets of 3 for each finger, except the thumb, which has two. This arrangement gives the hand its structure, dividing it into regions, while allowing fluid motion across the whole. The carpals are small yet strong, each one shaped with facets that fit neatly against its neighbors. They form a flexible base for the hand, allowing the wrist to bend forward, backward, and side to side. Though their motion seems limited, the carpals are vital, for they serve as a foundation for the rest of the hand. Their arrangement creates the carpal tunnel, a narrow passage through which tendons and nerves pass from the forearm to the palm. This tunnel is small, yet it carries the lifelines of motion and sensation, allowing the fingers to respond with speed and precision. The metacarpals form the palm, each one supporting a finger. They are long and slender, with rounded ends that connect to the carpals below and the phalanges above. Though less visible, the metacarpals give the hand its shape and stability. They form arches across the palm, both longitudinal and transverse, creating a cup-like shape that allows the hand to grasp objects securely. This arching design makes the hand both strong and adaptable, able to hold large objects or delicate ones, firm grips or gentle touches. The phalanges are the most mobile of the hand bones. Each finger has 3 phalanges, proximal, middle, and distal, except for the thumb, which has only 2. Their joints, called interphalangeal joints, allow bending and straightening, while the joints at their bases, the metacarpophalangeal joints, allow spreading and closing. This combination of joints gives the fingers extraordinary dexterity, enabling them to curl, extend, splay, and fold with ease. The thumb is unique among them, for it is opposable, able to touch the tips of the other fingers. This opposability gives humans the ability to grip with precision, from holding a pen to turning a key. It is a feature that has shaped much of human history, enabling the creation of tools, art, and language itself. The bones of the hand are small, but they are brought to life by a web of muscles and tendons. Many of these muscles lie in the forearm, sending long tendons through the wrist into the fingers. Others lie within the hand itself, small intrinsic muscles that fine-tune motion. These muscles allow the hand to change shape rapidly, from a strong fist to a delicate pinch. They also allow gestures of communication, subtle movements that convey meaning without words. The hand is thus not only mechanical but expressive, a bridge between action and emotion. In daily life, the hand's design reveals itself constantly. When you hold a cup, the palm forms a gentle curve around it, the fingers closing with even pressure. When you type or write, the fingers move independently, striking keys or guiding a pen with precision. When you reach out to touch, the fingers extend lightly, the thumb ready to oppose them and grasp. When you rest, the hand relaxes into a soft curve, the natural shape of its arches. Each action, whether powerful or delicate, depends on the harmony of bones, joints, muscles, and tendons working as one. The hands also tell stories of individuality. No two sets are exactly alike, and the lines, proportions, and movements of each hand are shaped by life itself. The bones may be the same in number and arrangement, but the use of the hand leaves its mark on the skin, on the muscles, even on the bones themselves. Over years of work, play, and gesture, the hands become reflections of personal history, silent records of all they have touched, carried, and created. From the perspective of evolution, the hands stand as one of the greatest adaptations of humankind. Early primates already possessed flexible fingers and opposable thumbs, useful for climbing and grasping branches. But in humans, freed from the demands of walking on all fours, the hands evolved even greater dexterity. This gave rise to tool use, the ability to shape objects from stone, wood, and metal. It allowed the creation of fire, the building of homes, the weaving of cloth. Over time, the hands became instruments not only of survival but of art. With them, humans painted, sculpted, wrote, and played music. The bones of the hands, small and silent though they are, became the foundation of culture and creativity. The symbolism of the hand is as powerful as its function. Across cultures, hands are signs of giving, of blessing, of greeting, and of strength. A raised hand can stop, a clenched hand can defend, an open hand can offer. The movements of the fingers can form signs of language, can point, can count, can emphasize. In every gesture, the bones of the hand play their part, guiding the shape of expression. The hand is thus both anatomical and symbolic, a union of form and meaning. Though capable of strength, the hand is also vulnerable. Its small bones and delicate joints can be injured by strain or impact. The carpal tunnel can narrow, compressing nerves and causing discomfort. The fingers can become stiff from overuse or weakened by age. Yet even in fragility, the hand remains remarkable. Its resilience, its ability to heal, and its capacity for adaptation reflect the living nature of bone and muscle. The hand continues to serve, decade after decade, adjusting to changes with quiet persistence. As you imagine your own hands, picture the carpals forming a compact base at the wrist, the metacarpals extending into the palm, and the phalanges spreading outward as fingers. Picture the thumb resting slightly apart, ready to oppose the others in grasp. Picture the natural arch of the palm, curving gently even in rest. Imagine the harmony of motion, the smooth bending of joints, the quiet strength of tendons pulling with precision. See how every part contributes to the whole, how bones and muscles cooperate to create a limb that is not only functional but expressive. The hands and fingers are among the most intimate of skeletal structures, for they touch the world directly. They are how we shape, how we connect, how we express. They are the instruments of both survival and art, of both work and tenderness. Beneath their surface lies an intricate framework of bones, each small yet vital, each part of a greater design. To reflect on them is to see the union of strength and delicacy, the blending of function and meaning. And as you rest, you may carry with you the thought of your own hands, lying in stillness, shaped by life, capable of motion, yet at peace, silent companions in the quiet rhythm of breath and sleep. 14. The pelvis, center of balance. At the base of the spine and the beginning of the legs lies a structure that is both foundation and gateway, both basin and bridge. This is the pelvis, a broad ring of bone that supports the weight of the upper body, connects the spine to the lower limbs, and protects the organs of the abdomen and pelvis. The pelvis is often called the basin of the skeleton, and its form reflects that description. Wide and curved, it cradles the body's center, anchoring the column of the spine above and the strong bones of the legs below. In its quiet strength, the pelvis represents balance itself, the meeting point between stability and motion, between the stillness of support and the freedom of stride. The pelvis is composed of several bones that fuse together into one strong structure. On each side are the hip bones, known as the os coxae, each of which is formed from three parts: the ilium, the ischium, and the pubis. In youth, these parts are separate, but as growth completes, they join into one seamless whole. The broad ilium forms the upper portion, its wide, flaring surfaces creating the familiar shape of the hips. The ischium forms the lower and back portion, supporting the body when sitting. The pubis lies at the front, meeting its counterpart from the opposite side at a joint called the pubic symphysis, a connection of cartilage that allows slight movement and flexibility. At the back, the pelvis joins with the sacrum, the triangular bone at the base of the spine, locking the axial skeleton to the appendicular skeleton in firm union. Together, these bones create a ring, a structure that distributes weight evenly and provides a sturdy base for the rest of the body. Within this ring lies the pelvic cavity, a protected space that houses vital organs such as parts of the intestines, the bladder, and in women, the uterus and ovaries. The pelvis is not only a base for movement, but also a shield, guarding the delicate functions of digestion, elimination, and reproduction. In this way, it reflects the dual nature of the skeleton, both support and protection, both framework and safeguard. One of the most remarkable features of the pelvis is the socket it provides for the legs. On each side of the pelvis lies a deep cup-shaped cavity called the acetabulum. This socket receives the head of the femur, forming the hip joint. Unlike the shallow socket of the shoulder, which sacrifices stability for range of motion, the acetabulum is deep and strong, built to bear weight and endure force. This design ensures that the legs, which carry the full load of standing and walking, are anchored securely. The hip joint still allows motion, rotation, flexion, extension, but its emphasis is on strength and endurance, the ability to support the body through years of motion. The pelvis is also a site where form reflects function. In men and women, the pelvis is shaped differently, adapted to distinct roles. The male pelvis is generally taller, narrower, and stronger, built for support and locomotion. The female pelvis is wider and more rounded, with a larger pelvic inlet and outlet, adaptations that allow for childbirth. These differences are subtle yet significant, and they reveal how the skeleton adapts not only to the needs of movement but also to the needs of life itself. The pelvis, in this sense, is both structural and generative, a base of strength and a passage of creation. The muscles that attach to the pelvis are many, making it a hub of motion and stability. Large muscles of the thighs, such as the quadriceps and hamstrings, arise from its surfaces, guiding the legs in walking and running. The gluteal muscles, among the strongest in the body, anchor at the ilium and sacrum, powering movement and maintaining upright posture. Muscles of the abdomen attach to the pelvis as well, forming a strong wall that supports the organs within and stabilizes the trunk. Even the pelvic floor, a network of smaller muscles, arises from the pelvis, supporting the base of the cavity and contributing to essential functions. The pelvis, then, is not merely bone, but the center of a web of connections, linking upper and lower body, guiding strength and balance. In daily life, the role of the pelvis is constant, though often unnoticed. When you stand, it supports the spine and transmits weight to the legs. When you walk, it tilts slightly with each step, smoothing motion and maintaining balance. When you sit, it provides the base upon which the body rests. Every gesture of the lower body begins here. Every stride and turn flows through this basin of bone. It is both anchor and hinge, both seat and support. The design of the pelvis also reflects efficiency. Its ring shape distributes weight evenly, reducing strain on any one bone. Its deep sockets secure the legs while allowing motion. Its curved walls provide protection without adding unnecessary bulk. Its surfaces provide broad areas for muscle attachment, ensuring strength and stability. It is a structure shaped not by chance but by purpose, refined over millennia to meet the needs of upright posture, locomotion, and protection. From the perspective of evolution, the pelvis tells a story of change. In early primates, adapted to life in trees, the pelvis was longer and narrower, suited for climbing and swinging. As humans evolved to walk upright, the pelvis shortened and broadened, creating stability for bipedal motion. This shift brought challenges, particularly in childbirth, for the narrower passage made delivery more complex. Yet it also brought advantages, the ability to walk long distances, to carry loads, to stand upright with balance and endurance. The human pelvis is thus a compromise, balancing the demands of locomotion and reproduction, reflecting the complex journey of our species. Symbolically, the pelvis is a center, the middle of the body, the place where balance is held. It connects above and below, linking the mind that thinks with the legs that carry. It is a place of grounding, where the body meets the earth through the stride, where weight settles in sitting, where stability resides in standing. To think of the pelvis is to think of balance itself, the still point from which movement flows. As you imagine your own pelvis, picture the wide ilia curving outward, the ischia forming their supportive base, the pubic bones meeting at the front in quiet union. Picture the sacrum fitting into place at the back, anchoring the spine to the hips. Picture the deep acetabula, receiving the heads of the femurs, holding them firmly in place. Picture the muscles rising and falling from its surfaces, linking it to the legs, the trunk, the core. See how it forms a basin, both solid and protective, both strong and graceful. The pelvis is more than bone. It is a foundation of posture, a cradle of organs, a center of balance. It supports, it protects, it anchors, it connects. In stillness, it bears the weight of the body with patience. In motion, it transmits force with grace. It is the center from which balance is maintained, the basin from which life itself flows. And as you rest, you may carry with you the thought of this quiet center within you, steady and strong, supporting every breath, every step, every moment of calm. 15. The lower limbs. Beneath the pelvis extend the lower limbs, the great columns of the body that carry its weight, bear its burdens, and grant it the power of locomotion. The lower limbs are the foundations of standing, the engines of walking and running, and the anchors of balance. They are built for endurance, designed to support the body through decades of motion. Yet they are also capable of remarkable strength and agility. Each step, each stride, each moment of standing upright is made possible by the bones of the lower limbs. They are not simply tools of movement, but guardians of stability, holding the body upright against gravity, linking the human form to the earth beneath. The lower limb is divided into regions, each marked by its major bones. At the top is the femur, the thigh bone, the longest and strongest bone in the human skeleton. Below the knee are two bones of the leg, the tibia and fibula. At the knee lies the patella, the kneecap, a small but vital bone that protects and guides the joint. At the base are the bones of the ankle and foot, an intricate structure that provides both support and flexibility. Together, these bones form a chain, one bone leading to the next, carrying weight from the pelvis downward to the ground, and carrying the force of the ground upward through the body. The femur is a bone of great significance. It extends from the hip to the knee, forming joints at both ends. At its upper end is a rounded head that fits into the acetabulum of the pelvis, creating the hip joint. This ball and socket joint allows the thigh to move in many directions, though its motion is steadier and more limited than that of the shoulder. It is built not only for mobility, but for strength, for it must carry the full weight of the body and transmit it to the legs. The femur is thick and strong, capable of withstanding immense force. Its shaft is slightly bowed, a curve that allows it to bear weight more efficiently. At its lower end, The femur widens into two rounded condyles that meet the tibia at the knee, forming one of the most important joints of the skeleton. The knee is both powerful and vulnerable. It is a hinge joint, designed to allow the leg to bend and straighten. Its strength comes from the interaction of bone, cartilage, ligaments, and muscles, all working together to maintain stability while allowing motion. The patella, or kneecap, rests at the front of the joint, embedded in the tendon of the quadriceps muscle. It acts as a shield, protecting the knee from impact, and as a guide, improving the leverage of the tendon as the leg extends. The ligaments of the knee, strong bands of connective tissue, hold the joint steady, preventing unwanted motion. Among them, the cruciate ligaments, crossing inside the joint, are especially vital, guiding the femur and tibia with every step. Though powerful, the knee is also susceptible to strain, for it bears great loads and depends on the harmony of many parts. Yet its endurance is remarkable, allowing decades of motion, countless steps, and infinite moments of standing tall. Below the knee lie the tibia and fibula, the paired bones of the leg. The tibia, or shin bone, is the larger and stronger, lying at the front and bearing most of the weight. It connects above with the femur and below with the bones of the ankle. The fibula lies beside it, thinner and more delicate, providing support and serving as an anchor for muscles. Though it bears little weight directly, the fibula is essential, stabilizing the ankle and aiding in balance. Together, the tibia and fibula form a frame that is both sturdy and adaptable, linking the knee to the foot with resilience. The ankle, like the wrist of the upper limb, is a complex joint formed from multiple bones. The main bone of the ankle is the talus, which sits atop the calcaneus, or heel bone. Together with the tibia and fibula, these bones form the ankle joint, a hinge that allows the foot to flex and extend. Around them lie other tarsal bones, forming the base of the foot. The foot itself contains 26 bones, arranged in the tarsals, metatarsals, and phalanges. This intricate structure creates the arches of the foot, which act as springs, absorbing shock and distributing weight. With each step, the arches compress slightly, then rebound, making walking and running smooth and efficient. The lower limbs are built for locomotion, but also for stability. When standing still, they act as pillars, holding the body upright without conscious effort. The alignment of the femur, tibia, and foot creates balance, allowing the body to remain vertical with minimal strain. When moving, the lower limbs transform into engines, driving the body forward with rhythmic precision. The muscles of the thighs and calves, anchored to the bones, contract and release in waves, propelling the body in stride. The ligaments and tendons stabilize, guiding the bones with every motion. Each part contributes, each bone plays its role. Each joint moves in harmony with the others. The design of the lower limbs reflects the demands of bipedalism, the ability to walk upright on two legs. In early human ancestors, the adaptation of the pelvis, femur, and foot allowed for efficient walking and running. The angle of the femur brings the knees inward, aligning them beneath the body's center of gravity. The shape of the pelvis stabilizes the trunk during stride. The arches of the feet store and release energy, making locomotion efficient. These adaptations distinguish humans from other primates, giving them endurance over long distances, a gift that shaped survival and exploration. The bones of the lower limbs carry this evolutionary story within them, silent witnesses to the long journey of upright walking. Symbolically, the lower limbs represent grounding. They are the connection to the earth, the the means by which the body meets the ground and rises above it. They carry the body's weight, absorb its impacts, and return its strength. To stand is to trust the lower limbs. To walk is to rely on their rhythm. To run is to embrace their power. They are not only mechanical supports, but symbols of stability, endurance, and connection to the world. As you imagine your own lower limbs, picture the femurs descending from the pelvis, strong and slightly curved, meeting the tibias and fibulae at the knees. Picture the patellae resting at the front of each knee, gliding gently as the leg bends and straightens. Picture the tibias running forward, the fibulae alongside, reaching down to the ankles. Picture the feet spreading outward, their arches rising gently, their toes extending like delicate ends of a strong frame. See the balance of size and delicacy, the harmony of strength and grace. The lower limbs are not merely bones. They are foundations of life. They carry, they support, they move, they balance. In stillness, they are pillars of strength. In motion, they are engines of endurance. They unite the body with the earth, and they carry it forward into the world. And as you rest, you may carry with you the thought of these silent columns, lying still, yet always ready, strong, yet graceful, steady companions through every step of life. 16. The feet, at the very base of the skeleton, where the body meets the earth, lie the feet. They are the anchors of movement, the foundations of standing, and the instruments that allow the body to balance, walk, and run. Though small compared to the rest of the skeleton, the feet are among its most complex and remarkable structures. Each one contains 26 bones, bound together by joints, ligaments, and muscles, creating a framework that is strong, flexible, and resilient. They bear the weight of the body with every step, absorbing shock, adjusting to surfaces, and guiding motion with silent precision. To reflect on the feet is to recognize the quiet foundations of daily life, the structures that hold us steady and carry us forward without pause. The bones of the feet are arranged in 3 groups: the tarsals, the metatarsals, and the phalanges. The tarsals form the hindfoot and midfoot, 7 bones in total, large and irregular, built for stability and support. Chief among them are the talus and the calcaneus. The talus sits at the top of the foot, forming the main connection with the tibia and fibula at the ankle joint. It bears the weight of the body and transfers it forward with each step. Beneath it lies the calcaneus, or heel bone, the largest bone of the foot, which forms the base of support when standing and the point of impact when walking. The calcaneus is shaped to endure great force, its broad surface dispersing weight into the ground. Together, the talus and calcaneus create the foundation of the hindfoot, the central hinge upon which the rest of the foot moves. The other tarsal bones, the navicular, cuboid, and 3 cuneiforms form the midfoot, creating the arches that define the foot's shape. These bones, though smaller, play a vital role in balance and flexibility. They act as keystones, distributing weight across the foot and linking the hindfoot to the forefoot. Their arrangement is not random but deliberate, shaping the natural curves that give the foot both strength and spring. Beyond the tarsals lie the metatarsals, 5 long bones that extend toward the toes. They form the sole of the foot, bridging the midfoot with the phalanges. Each metatarsal connects with a toe, spreading slightly apart to give balance. They are not rigid but mobile, shifting gently with each step to adapt to uneven surfaces. At their ends, they form the ball of the foot, a region that bears great force during walking and running. The metatarsals are thus both supportive and dynamic, guiding the transfer of weight from heel to toe in smooth progression. At the front of the foot are the phalanges, the toe bones. Each of the four smaller toes has three phalanges, proximal, middle, and distal, while the big toe has two. Though smaller than the fingers, the toes serve a similar purpose: balance and fine adjustment. They press against the ground, stabilize the body, and assist in pushing off with each step. The big toe, or hallux, is particularly important, for it bears much of the load in forward motion. Its strength and alignment make walking efficient, guiding the body's stride with each push. The toes may seem minor, but they are essential, subtle guides of balance and motion. The architecture of the foot is defined by its arches, graceful curves that distribute weight and create resilience. There are three main arches: the medial longitudinal arch, running along the inside of the foot from heel to big toe; the lateral longitudinal arch, along the outside from heel to little toe; and the transverse arch, running across the midfoot. These arches act as springs, compressing slightly under weight, then rebounding to propel the body forward. They absorb shock, reduce strain, and make walking and running efficient. Without them, each step would be heavy and jarring. With them, motion becomes light, smooth, and enduring. The joints of the foot are many, each allowing small but vital motions. The ankle joint, where the talus meets the tibia and fibula, acts like a hinge, flexing and extending the foot. Beneath it, the subtalar joint between the talus and calcaneus allows the foot to roll inward and outward, adjusting to uneven ground. The tarsometatarsal and metatarsophalangeal joints provide flexibility for the forefoot and toes, allowing the foot to adapt to different surfaces and movements. Though each joint has limited motion, together they give the foot remarkable adaptability, enabling it to conform to terrain, maintain balance, and support locomotion. Ligaments weave throughout the foot, binding bones together and stabilizing the arches. The plantar fascia, a thick band of connective tissue along the sole, is particularly important. It runs from the heel to the toes, supporting the medial arch and storing energy during walking. When the foot lifts, the fascia recoils, releasing this energy and propelling the step forward. This mechanism, simple yet profound, makes the foot not only a support but a spring, returning energy to the body with every stride. The muscles of the foot, both intrinsic and extrinsic, bring it to life. The extrinsic muscles originate in the leg, sending tendons into the foot to control larger motions, such as flexing and pointing the toes. The intrinsic muscles lie within the foot itself, small and numerous, adjusting the positions of the toes, stabilizing the arches, and fine-tuning balance. Together, these muscles provide both power and precision, ensuring that the foot is responsive, adaptable, and resilient. In daily life, the feet serve as constant companions. They bear the weight of standing, sometimes for long hours without rest. They propel the body forward in walking, running, or climbing. They adapt to surfaces: flat ground, slopes, uneven paths, adjusting silently with each step. They maintain balance, shifting subtly to keep the body upright even when posture sways. They endure impacts, absorbing the shocks of motion and protecting the skeleton above. And they do all this quietly, often without notice, until fatigue or strain draws attention to their effort. The story of the foot is also the story of human evolution. In our earliest ancestors, the foot was shaped for grasping, aiding life in the trees. As humans adapted to walking upright, the foot transformed. The toes shortened, the big toe aligned with the others, the arches developed, and the heel enlarged. These changes made bipedal locomotion efficient, allowing humans to walk long distances, to carry loads, to migrate across landscapes. The foot became not a hand, but a foundation, not an instrument of grasping, but one of carrying and endurance. This transformation shaped human life, enabling travel, exploration, and survival. Symbolically, the feet represent grounding, connection, and endurance. They are the point where the body meets the earth, where weight is born and released, where motion begins. To stand firmly is to trust the feet. To walk steadily is to rely on their rhythm. To run freely is to embrace their power. They are symbols of foundation and persistence, reminders that every journey begins with a single step, supported by the silent strength of the feet. As you imagine your own feet, picture the heel resting firmly, the arches curving gently upward, the metatarsals spreading into the ball, the toes extending outward with quiet grace. Picture the bones aligned, the joints moving smoothly, the ligaments and fascia supporting, the muscles adjusting with every subtle motion. Picture the rhythm of standing and walking, the soft roll from heel to toe, the rebound of the arches, the push of the big toe guiding the stride. See the feet as they are, not only supports, but springs, not only anchors, but guides, not only foundations, but instruments of movement and balance. The feet are the unsung guardians of daily life. They hold us upright, carry us forward, absorb our steps, and connect us to the world beneath. They are always present, always working, always enduring. To reflect on them is to find gratitude for the quiet structures that sustain us, the anchors of movement that serve without complaint. And as you rest, you may carry with you the thought of these foundations within you, lying still yet always ready, patient and strong, silent companions to every step of life's journey. 17 joints, where bones meet. Everywhere within the skeleton, bones come together, and wherever they meet, there is a joint. Joints are the connections of the body, the hinges and pivots, the gliding planes, and the strong, immovable bonds. They are the places where structure becomes motion, where the rigid strength of bone is softened by flexibility, where the skeleton transforms from a silent frame into a living instrument of movement. To reflect on joints is to see the harmony of stability and mobility, the careful balance that allows the body to bend without breaking, to move without losing form, to remain strong even in motion. Joints come in many forms, each adapted to its purpose. Some are designed for free and graceful movement, allowing wide arcs and delicate rotations. Others are designed for stability, holding bones tightly together with little or no motion. Between these extremes lie many variations, each suited to the needs of the region it serves. This diversity reveals the intelligence of the body's design. Not every part must move freely, and not every part must remain fixed. Instead, there is a spectrum, a quiet blending of possibilities, from the immovable joints of the skull to the wide freedom of the shoulder and hip. Broadly, joints can be grouped into 3 categories: fibrous, cartilaginous, and synovial. Fibrous joints are bound by tough connective tissue and allow little or no movement. Cartilaginous joints are joined by cartilage, permitting some flexibility but limited motion. Synovial joints, the most numerous, are the true instruments of motion, their structures allowing wide ranges of movement. Each type plays its role, ensuring that the skeleton is not merely rigid, but adaptable, balancing strength with function. Fibrous joints are among the simplest, yet they serve profound purposes. The sutures of the skull are fibrous joints, where bones meet and are bound by connective tissue. In early life, they permit growth, but in adulthood, they allow no motion, holding the cranial bones in firm protection around the brain. Other fibrous joints, such as those between certain bones of the forearm and leg, allow only slight movement, stabilizing the limbs while permitting small adjustments. These joints remind us that stillness is sometimes necessary, that strength sometimes lies in immobility. Cartilaginous joints offer more motion, though still limited. In the spine, each vertebra is separated by an intervertebral disc, a cartilaginous joint that provides flexibility while maintaining stability. These joints allow the spine to bend and twist while protecting the spinal cord within. At the front of the pelvis, the pubic symphysis is another cartilaginous joint, joining the two pubic bones with a pad of cartilage. Normally, it permits only slight movement, but during childbirth it becomes more flexible, aiding in the passage of new life. These joints are examples of compromise, balancing firmness with adaptability, providing strength while still yielding when needed. The most remarkable joints of the skeleton are the synovial joints, which make possible the fluid motion of the body. They are distinguished by the presence of a joint cavity, a small space filled with synovial fluid. This fluid lubricates the joint, reducing friction, nourishing the cartilage, and allowing smooth movement. Around the cavity is a capsule of connective tissue, reinforced by ligaments for stability. The ends of the bones are covered with articular cartilage, smooth and resilient, cushioning impact and ensuring that bones glide easily over one another. This design, though small in scale, is one of nature's most elegant, allowing freedom of motion without loss of stability. Synovial joints come in many forms, each adapted to a specific range of movement. Ball and socket joints, like the shoulder and hip, allow rotation in nearly every direction, making them the most mobile of all. Hinge joints, like the elbow and knee, allow bending and straightening along one plane, trading range for strength. Pivot joints, such as the one between the first two cervical vertebrae, allow rotation, turning the head from side to side. Gliding joints, found between the small bones of the wrist and ankle, allow sliding movements, adjusting to shifts in position. Condyloid joints, like those of the wrist, allow movement in two directions, while saddle joints, such as the one at the base of the thumb, permit a unique range that makes opposable motion possible. Together, these varied forms create the full spectrum of human movement, from the power of the legs to the finesse of the hands. Ligaments, strong bands of connective tissue, play a vital role in joints. They bind bones together, guiding motion and preventing excess. In the knee, for example, the cruciate ligaments cross inside the joint, stabilizing it against forward and backward sliding. The collateral ligaments reinforce the sides, preventing unwanted side-to-side motion. In the shoulder, ligaments help hold the shallow joint together, balancing freedom with stability. Though silent and unseen, ligaments are essential guardians, ensuring that joints move within safe ranges, protecting against dislocation and strain. Cartilage within joints also plays its quiet role. Articular cartilage covers the ends of bones, creating smooth surfaces that glide easily against one another. Menisci, crescent-shaped pads of cartilage within the knee, distribute weight and absorb shock. Though cartilage has little blood supply and heals slowly, its resilience is profound, enduring countless motions over a lifetime. It is the soft partner to the hard bone, ensuring that movement is smooth, cushioned, and efficient. Joints are also nourished by motion itself. The synovial fluid that lubricates them circulates more freely when the body moves, carrying nutrients to the cartilage. In stillness, joints may stiffen. In motion, they are refreshed. This is why gentle movement often eases stiffness, and why activity sustains joint health. Joints are living structures, not passive hinges, and they thrive on rhythm, on the flowing balance of movement and rest. The symbolism of joints is profound. They are the meeting places of the body, the connections that link one bone to another, one region to another, one motion to the next. They remind us that connection is what allows freedom, that union is what allows expression. Without joints, the skeleton would be a rigid cage, incapable of movement. With them, it becomes a flowing structure, capable of bending, twisting, and reaching. The joints turn stillness into grace, rigidity into dance. As you imagine your own joints, picture the rounded head of the femur resting in the deep cup of the acetabulum, turning smoothly with each step. Picture the hinge of the knee bending and straightening, guided by ligaments, cushioned by cartilage. Picture the shoulder joint, shallow and mobile, allowing the arm to sweep in wide arcs. Picture the small gliding joints of the wrist, the saddle joint of the thumb, the delicate pivots of the neck. Each joint, large or small, contributes to the whole, transforming the skeleton into a living, moving being. In rest, the joints are quiet, their capsules holding fluid, their ligaments at ease, their cartilage unstrained. Yet even in stillness, they remain ready, prepared for the next motion, the next gesture. They are silent, but they are never dormant, always maintaining connection, always preserving balance. To reflect on joints is to see how motion depends on union, how strength depends on flexibility, how the body's harmony rests upon the meeting places of bone. Joints are not only mechanical features, but also symbols of life itself. They are the hinges of possibility, the pivots of change, the gliding places where parts come together to create wholeness. They show us that movement requires connection, that strength requires flexibility, that the greatest stability lies not in rigidity, but in balance. And as you rest, you may carry with you the thought of these quiet meeting places within your body, the joints that unite you, the silent guardians of motion and stillness alike, always present, always enduring, always holding the balance of life. 18. Cartilage and ligaments. Deep within the body, where bone meets bone and motion begins, two kinds of tissues carry out their work in silence. These are cartilage and ligaments, often overlooked but essential, for they are the soft guardians of the skeleton, the flexible partners that make movement possible. Bones may provide the strength and structure, but without cartilage and ligaments, the skeleton would grind, dislocate, and collapse under strain. These tissues do not command attention in the way bones do, yet their importance is profound. They guide motion, cushion impact, and hold the framework together with patience and endurance. To reflect on them is to see how strength is never only about hardness, but also about support, flexibility, and connection. Cartilage is a smooth and resilient connective tissue that serves many roles throughout the skeleton. It is not as hard as bone, nor as soft as muscle. Instead, it occupies a middle ground, flexible yet firm, capable of absorbing shock and reducing friction. One of its most vital functions is to cover the ends of bones where they meet in joints. Known as articular cartilage, this thin layer ensures that bones glide smoothly against one another. Imagine two polished surfaces sliding with ease. This is what cartilage provides. Without it, motion would become harsh, bone grinding against bone, wearing away with painful friction. With it, motion is softened, cushioned, made graceful. The resilience of cartilage lies in its unique structure. It is composed of a dense network of collagen fibers, embedded in a gel-like matrix, rich in water. This composition allows it to compress under pressure and then return to its shape, absorbing forces like a spring. When you walk, the cartilage in your knees and hips compresses with each step, protecting the bones beneath. When you rise from sitting, the cartilage allows smooth transition, bearing weight without complaint. It is a tissue designed for endurance, one that quietly absorbs the stresses of daily life. Cartilage is found not only in joints but also in other regions of the skeleton. In the ribcage, cartilage connects the ribs to the sternum, giving the chest the flexibility it needs to expand and contract with each breath. In the nose and ears, cartilage provides shape without heaviness, allowing form that is both durable and flexible. In the spine, the intervertebral discs are partly composed of cartilage, providing cushioning between vertebrae. Even in development, cartilage plays a critical role, for much of the skeleton begins as cartilage in the embryo before gradually being replaced by bone through the process of ossification. It is, in this sense, the foundation upon which the bones themselves are built. Despite its strength, cartilage has one limitation. It has little blood supply. This means it heals slowly when injured, relying on the diffusion of nutrients from surrounding tissues rather than direct nourishment. Yet even with this limitation, cartilage endures for decades, often lasting a lifetime in many joints. Its persistence is a reminder of its quiet strength, of how tissues can serve with patience even without quick repair. Ligaments, in turn, are the strong bands of connective tissue that hold bones together. They are cords of dense collagen fibers, aligned in parallel, designed to resist pulling forces. Where cartilage cushions, ligaments stabilize. They span across joints, anchoring one bone to another, guiding motion and preventing excess. They do not generate movement themselves, that is the role of muscles, but they ensure that movement remains safe and controlled. Without ligaments, the joints would be unstable, prone to dislocation and injury. With ligaments, motion is given boundaries, freedom, balanced by restraint. The role of ligaments is perhaps most evident in the major joints. In the knee, ligaments form a network of support. The cruciate ligaments cross within the joint, preventing the tibia from sliding too far forward or backward beneath the femur. The collateral ligaments run along the sides, preventing the knee from bending inward or outward excessively. Together, they ensure that the knee bends only as it should, straightens only within its limits, and remains steady with every step. In the shoulder, ligaments stabilize the shallow socket, helping to hold the head of the humerus in place, despite its wide range of motion. In the ankle, ligaments bind the bones tightly, preventing unwanted twisting. In each case, ligaments serve as silent guardians, unseen yet essential. Ligaments, like cartilage, are living tissues, though they too have limited blood supply. They heal slowly, and when overstretched or torn, recovery may be long. Yet their design reflects balance. They must be strong enough to resist strain, flexible enough to allow motion. They are not rigid bands, but resilient cords, yielding slightly before tightening, guiding motion with precision. They remind us that true stability is not absolute stillness, but controlled flexibility, a balance between firmness and flow. Together, cartilage and ligaments create the conditions for motion. Cartilage ensures smoothness, allowing bones to glide without friction. Ligaments ensure stability, guiding bones within their safe paths. Without cartilage, motion would be harsh. Without ligaments, motion would be chaotic. With both, motion becomes graceful, strong, and enduring. They are not as visible as bones, but they are no less vital. They are the quiet partners of the skeleton, the tissues that make the difference between rigidity and resilience. The symbolism of cartilage and ligaments is gentle but profound. They remind us that strength is not only hardness, but also softness. They show that stability requires connection, that freedom requires guidance, that motion requires balance. The bones alone would be lifeless without them, incapable of smooth and safe movement. With them, the skeleton becomes not only structure, but harmony, not only frame, but flow. As you imagine your own body, picture the smooth layers of cartilage covering the ends of your bones, shining with fluid, cushioning every step, every motion. Picture the ligaments stretching from bone to bone, taut but flexible, holding joints steady, guiding motion within safe bounds. Picture the balance they provide, the quiet resilience they embody, the way they allow movement without chaos, freedom without collapse. See how they serve silently, unseen yet always present, the guardians of motion and protectors of stability. In daily life, their work is constant, though unnoticed. When you rise from sitting, cartilage cushions the load. When you take a step, ligaments hold the knee steady. When you reach overhead, cartilage in the shoulder allows smooth gliding, while ligaments prevent dislocation. When you breathe, cartilage in the ribcage bends and flexes, giving the chest its movement. These tissues are always active, always serving, always maintaining harmony. They do not call attention to themselves, yet without them, even the simplest gestures would become painful or impossible. To reflect on cartilage and ligaments is to find appreciation for the subtle supports of life. They are not as celebrated as bones, but they are essential. They remind us that what is unseen often sustains us, that what is soft can be as strong as what is hard, that true balance requires both. And as you rest, you may carry with you the thought of these tissues within, silent guardians that cushion, stabilize, and connect, always present, always enduring, always sustaining the quiet grace of motion and stillness alike. 19. Bone marrow and blood production. Deep inside the bones, beyond the hard surfaces and the lattices of spongy tissue, lies a world that is hidden from view, yet central to life. This is the bone marrow, a soft tissue that fills the hollow spaces of many bones. It is not bone in the sense of hardness or structure, but bone in the sense of essence, for it is here that blood is born. Bone marrow is the quiet workshop of the body, a place where stem cells divide, where red and white blood cells are created, where the flow of life itself is sustained. While the skeleton provides protection and movement, the marrow within sustains survival, ensuring that oxygen is carried, immunity is defended, and wounds are healed. To reflect on bone marrow is to recognize the hidden heartbeat of the skeleton, a silent companion working in darkness to support the light of life. Bone marrow exists in two main forms, red marrow and yellow marrow. Red marrow is the more active of the two, a site of constant production where billions of blood cells are created every day. It is found mainly in the flat bones of the body, such as the sternum, ribs, pelvis, and skull, as well as in the ends of long bones like the femur and humerus. Yellow marrow, in contrast, is composed mostly of fat cells. It fills the cavities of long bones in adulthood, serving as an energy reserve. Yet even yellow marrow retains the potential to become red marrow again in times of great need, showing how adaptability is woven into the body's design. The red marrow's most vital function is hematopoiesis, the process of forming blood. Within its spongy chambers live stem cells, remarkable cells that can divide and transform into the many types of blood cells the body requires. Some become red blood cells, whose primary task is to carry oxygen. Packed with hemoglobin, they pick up oxygen in the lungs and deliver it to tissues throughout the body, then return with carbon dioxide to be exhaled. Others become white blood cells, the guardians of immunity, each type specialized for different defenses. Some patrol constantly, seeking invaders, while others remember past infections and respond with swiftness. Still others become platelets, small fragments that rush to wounds, clumping together to form clots and prevent blood loss. All of these arise from the same marrow, from the same patient work of stem cells dividing and differentiating. The production of blood and marrow is finely tuned. It responds to the body's needs, adjusting the numbers of each cell type according to demand. If oxygen levels drop, the body signals the marrow to make more red cells. If infection appears, more white cells are produced. If bleeding occurs, more platelets are released. The marrow is not static but dynamic, responding to life's challenges with quiet adaptability. Every second of every day, it is at work, producing millions of new cells to replace those that have aged or been lost. Without this constant renewal, the body would falter quickly, for blood cells live only for limited spans. Red cells for about 4 months, platelets for about 10 days, many white cells for only hours. The marrow ensures continuity, sustaining the river of blood with endless patience. In infancy, nearly all bones contain red marrow, for the needs of a growing body are immense. As childhood progresses, much of this marrow gradually transforms into yellow marrow, with red marrow remaining only in certain bones. This transition reflects the balance between activity and reserve, between production and storage. Yet even as red marrow becomes less widespread, it remains sufficient to sustain life, and in times of crisis, yellow marrow can be called upon to return to red. This adaptability ensures that the body always has the means to respond, that the hidden factory of the marrow never ceases its work. The structure of marrow itself is fascinating. Within the spongy trabecular bone lie tiny cavities filled with soft tissue, richly supplied with blood vessels. These vessels bring nutrients and carry away newly formed cells, delivering them into circulation. The marrow is not isolated, but integrated into the bloodstream, its products flowing directly into the body. It is, in a sense, both factory and gateway, creating and releasing the very elements of life. Bone marrow also plays a role in the immune system beyond simple production of cells. It is the birthplace of lymphocytes, a type of white blood cell that is central to adaptive immunity. Some of these lymphocytes, known as B cells, mature within the marrow itself, learning to recognize antigens and produce antibodies. Others, known as T cells, migrate to the thymus for further training. Together, these cells give the immune system its memory, its ability to recognize and respond more swiftly to threats it has faced before. Thus, the marrow is not only a producer of blood but also a teacher of immunity, shaping the body's defenses in silence. From an evolutionary perspective, bone marrow reflects the adaptability of vertebrates. In early creatures, blood was produced in other organs such as the liver and spleen. Over time, the responsibility shifted into the bones, where marrow provided both protection and efficiency. Enclosed within the skeleton, the marrow is shielded from injury, yet closely connected to the circulation. This shift allowed for greater complexity in blood production and immunity, contributing to the survival of species across changing environments. The marrow thus carries within it not only the life of each individual, but also the memory of evolution. Symbolically, bone marrow has long been seen as the innermost essence of being. In many traditions, to speak of marrow is to speak of the deepest strength, the hidden core from which life flows. This symbolism reflects the reality, for marrow is indeed the hidden core of the skeleton, invisible yet essential, soft yet powerful. It reminds us that strength is not always visible, that vitality often resides in what is unseen. As you imagine your own marrow, picture the long bones of your legs and arms, their hard shells, surrounding hollow chambers. Within these chambers, Picture the soft tissue glowing with life, stem cells dividing, new blood cells forming, vessels carrying them into circulation. Picture the flat bones of your chest and pelvis, filled with red marrow, producing cells tirelessly, endlessly. Picture the balance of red and yellow, of activity and reserve, of creation and storage. See how this hidden world sustains every breath, every thought, every motion. In daily life, we rarely think of marrow, yet it serves us constantly. Each breath you take delivers oxygen to red cells born in the marrow. Each step you take is powered by muscles fed with oxygen carried by those same cells. Each defense against illness is mounted by white cells that began in marrow chambers. Each wound that heals is aided by platelets released from marrow stores. The marrow's work is quiet, but its impact is immense, woven into every act of living. Bone marrow is more than tissue. It is the source of life's flow, the birthplace of blood, the guardian of renewal. It sustains not only the body's strength but also its resilience, adapting to need, responding to challenge, enduring across years. To reflect on it is to see the hidden core within, the soft strength that sustains all else. And as you rest, you may carry with you the thought of this quiet essence, working tirelessly within your bones, creating life in silence, supporting every breath, every heartbeat, every moment of stillness and peace. 20. The skeleton as a whole. Unity and balance. At last, when we step back from each bone, each joint, each hidden tissue, we see the skeleton not as separate pieces but as a whole. It is a framework of astonishing unity, a system in which every part contributes to the balance of the body, where each bone finds its place in harmony with the others. The skeleton is more than a collection of bones. It is an architecture of life, a silent design that carries us, shelters us, and allows us to move through the world with grace. To reflect on the skeleton as a whole is to see the unity of its parts, the balance between strength and flexibility, the quiet harmony that makes life possible. The human skeleton is composed of 206 bones in adulthood, though the exact number can vary slightly among individuals. These bones are divided into the axial skeleton, the central axis of skull, spine, and ribcage, and the appendicular skeleton, the limbs and their girdles that extend outward. Each region has its purpose, yet none stands alone. The skull protects the brain, yet relies on the spine to hold it aloft. The spine carries the body upright, yet relies on the pelvis and legs for stability. The ribcage shelters the heart and lungs, yet moves with them in the rhythm of breath. The arms reach outward in expression, yet depend on the shoulder girdle for foundation. The legs carry the body forward, yet depend on the arches of the feet for endurance. Everywhere, one part depends on another, and together they form a living whole. The unity of the skeleton is found not only in structure but in balance. Bones are strong, but they are not brittle. They are hardened by minerals, yet lightened by spongy interiors. They resist breaking, yet they also bend slightly, absorbing impact. They are rigid, yet they are alive, filled with marrow that creates blood, lined with membranes that nourish and repair. Joints allow motion, but ligaments guide that motion within safe bounds. Cartilage cushions, muscles move, and together the bones respond. Nothing is isolated, and nothing is without purpose. The skeleton as a whole is a balance between firmness and fluidity, endurance and adaptability, stillness and motion. The design of the skeleton also reflects economy. Bones are shaped not only for strength, but for efficiency. The long bones of the legs are thick where they must bear weight, yet hollow inside, reducing heaviness while retaining power. The vertebrae of the spine are small at the neck for delicacy, larger at the base for strength. The ribcage curves to protect but also to expand. The skull is strong enough to shield the brain, yet filled with air-filled sinuses that lighten its weight. Everywhere in the skeleton, form follows function, and function follows balance. In daily life, the skeleton serves constantly, though we rarely notice. When you stand, it bears your weight, aligning bones and joints to balance effortlessly. When you walk, it transforms into an engine, transferring forces smoothly from pelvis to legs to feet. When you breathe, the rib cage rises and falls, the sternum shifting gently, the cartilage flexing quietly. When you reach, the shoulder girdle adjusts, the arm extends, the hand opens. In each gesture, the skeleton acts as a partner, supporting, guiding, enabling. It is present in every action, yet silent, never demanding attention. To think of the skeleton as a whole is also to think of time. In infancy, it begins as a more flexible frame, filled with cartilage and many small bones. Over years, these bones fuse, harden, and strengthen, adapting to growth and change. In adulthood, the skeleton reaches its peak, strong and resilient, capable of carrying the body through its busiest years. In age, it may lose some density, becoming lighter and more fragile. Yet it continues to support, to shelter, to endure. The skeleton is not fixed, but living, changing with each stage of life, reflecting the passage of time within its structure. The skeleton also carries the memory of evolution. Each bone tells part of the human story. The pelvis broadened for walking upright, the arches of the feet shaped for endurance, the hands refined for precision, the skull enlarged to hold the growing brain. These changes did not occur overnight, but across millennia, shaped by survival, adaptation, and creativity. The skeleton is thus both individual and collective, both personal and ancestral. It belongs to each of us, yet it carries within it the story of all humanity. Symbolically, the skeleton is often seen as a symbol of mortality, the frame that remains when life departs. Yet when seen in life, it is not a symbol of endings, but of endurance. It is the hidden support that allows every motion, every breath, every heartbeat. It is not a reminder of death, but a companion of living, always present, always carrying, always protecting. To think of it as a whole is to see not emptiness, but unity, not silence, but harmony. As you imagine your own skeleton, picture it in its entirety, from the skull at the top to the feet at the base. See the spine rising like a column, the rib cage curving around the chest, the pelvis forming a broad basin, the limbs extending outward like branches. Picture the joints linking, the ligaments guiding, the cartilage cushioning. Picture the marrow within, producing the cells of life. See how each part is distinct, yet all are joined, forming a whole that is greater than the sum of its parts. In stillness, the skeleton holds you upright, balanced, and steady. In motion, it transforms into a flowing system, bones moving against one another, joints guiding, muscles pulling, tendons transmitting, ligaments restraining. It is both structure and motion, both shield and tool, both anchor and expression. It allows you to rest in silence and to move with freedom, to stand in strength and to lie in calmness. The skeleton as a whole is a lesson in unity. It shows how many parts can join into one, how balance emerges from diversity, how strength requires both hardness and softness. It reminds us that within the body, as within life, harmony arises from connection, from cooperation, from the blending of roles. Bones, joints, cartilage, ligaments, marrow, all work together, each doing its part, each depending on the others. As you rest, you may carry with you the thought of this unity within. Beneath your skin, beneath your muscles, lies a framework of silent strength, a skeleton that supports and protects, that balances and moves, that endures with patience. It is always with you, a companion in stillness and in motion, a reminder that within you lies a harmony of parts, a balance of strength and grace. The skeleton is not only structure, it is unity itself, the silent balance that sustains life, the quiet frame that carries you through every breath, every moment, every gentle passage of time.